Greetings, everyone. And welcome to the soundtrack of your dreams and nightmares. It's Monster Party.
Monster Party.
Monster Party.
All right, let's get to it. I am Matt Weinhold.
I am SHAWN SHERIDAN.
I'm Larry STROTHE.
And I'm James GONIS.
And for this show, wow, this is a show that James, I think you've been wanting to do especially, and Sean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
For a long time.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it.
Well, Larry too.
I was biting my lip. I wanted to do this so badly.
Wow, okay.
We've been eager.
Okay, so we've all wanted to do this.
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Yes.
What is
This amazing topic?
Yes.
The topic is soundtracks. The music of the films we love.
That's what music is so important.
Music is very important
horror,
in our
thrillers.
lives, in our movies, and the things that we love.
In our collections.
In the car.
Yes.
Right?
When you're trying to study.
Yes, it's all very important.
Or when you're just sitting looking at your collection.
On your ringtone.
Yes. But James, to do this topic justice, we needed the right guest.
Yes.
The perfect guest.
And that's why it's taken so long, because we had to have
interviewed
the
for
perfect
the
guest.
people we ruled out would just astonish you.
John
and
Williams.
appall you.
John Williams, a hack. Come on.
Yeah.
We wanted someone great.
We kicked him out mid-show. Like, no, this is not working. I thought you were good.
Well, I'm thrilled to say we have found the perfect guest. This gentleman began his career writing for magazines like Fangoria, Toxic Horror, and CINEFANTASTIQUE. He's worked at a couple of our favorite studios, Troma and Full Moon.
Sweet.
He's actually appeared in a bunch of movies, including Free Enterprise, where he played himself.
Couldn't get anyone else to do it.
Phantasm Ravager, Bubba Ho Tep,
Yeah.
and the upcoming Happy Horror Days. He's the music editor specializing in temp tracks for Formosa Music Group, and we'll ask him about that later.
Okay.
He's written tons of liner notes, over 100 of them, including
God.
Mask of the Red Death, Basic Instinct, Pet Sematary 2, Return from Witch Mountain, The Beast Within, and upcoming Dark Man.
Nice. Now out.
And he's the soundtrack editor at filmmusicmag.com, where he has new interviews every month with film composers. Last but not least, he hosts the podcast On the Score. Let's welcome Dan SCHWEIGER.
Dan SCHWEIGER! You're so musical.
Yeah. I'm gonna. I just feel like I'm like in a room with like four Rudy, so I'm just gonna do this whole thing like Corbin Dallas. Yeah. Okay. No, I'm happy to be here. I mean, these guys, their energy is blowing me away, so I'm just gonna try to get through this.
Is that kind of a euphemism for what's actually happening in your head?
Lots is happening in my head.
Look, Dan, I just want to get into it. I mean, music. I mean, what was it that had you get into music?
Well, I mean, I think you guys are going to be posting photos of this amazing house, which
Yes.
I'm going to steal as soon. Just kill you. The soundtrack over here in back of me is for Logan's Run, and if you Free Enterprise, you could just tell like Robert Meyer Burnett and Mark Altman. No, this is like a huge game-changing movie for. I think we're all 55 here or something like that.
Yeah.
For me too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really a movie, again, it was actually probably one of the first films I saw in the theater. And again, it just, the vision and the scope of the film just totally blew me away, and especially the music by Jerry Goldsmith, who is, he's my Mozart. John Williams is Beethoven, and Goldsmith is my Mozart. Yeah. And it just, there's something about the music that just totally captivated me. And I think, when you're a kid, you do a lot of play acting. And you'll put on music and you'll just kind of you make your own little audio plays or run around your room, and that was the thing about film music that just is particularly this one score, because again you put it on and you created your own world, you created your own stories to music, and that's I think the one thing that's always just attracted me to make this essentially a huge part of my life is because you create your own worlds, you create your own stories.
Yeah.
With the best film music, it just creates this internal imagination in your head.
And that soundtrack is so varied too.
Oh yeah,
Well, it's a great
I mean, it's got
combination
yeah,
of
seven-
electronic and
Yeah.
orchestral.
Symphonic,
both of them. Goldsmith was doing a lot of synth stuff back in the 70s, and Planet of the Apes is a game-changing score. Logan's Run had like the best of these gigantic sweeping themes. So the themes of the film really impressed me.
Yeah.
Music that's totally made you recall stuff.
Yeah.
Which is what a great thematic writer like Williams, like Goldsmith, like the old cats like Elmer Bernstein, those guys would have great themes, and I think there's still some really fantastic composers, memorable themes, but nothing, that is like my era.
That was the first soundtrack I ever purchased.
Really?
The love theme, not necessarily the overproduced kind of love theme, but like that theme that runs through the movie could make me weep. Like it really connected me to that movie and, Logan and Jessica's relationship. And it had a profound effect on me as a kid. Logan's Run, I wanted to, I lived in that world for a good 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
Even after Star Wars.
Yeah, because this was before Star Wars, before kind of science fiction went off the map as far as just, skyrocketed with popularity.
This was the big
at the
movie.
time, Logan's Run was the cool sci-fi movie,
And also it's very sexy.
Oh my
Don't
God.
forget
Jen, don't even get us started on Jenny Agutter.
Oh my God! It's been my dream to see that uncut box scene.
Yes.
What about
We've talked about
the love
this.
shop scene too, but the love shop.
No pun intended.
Yeah, but the love shop also was cut. I think they
Yes,
had
that's
more-
right. Yeah, yeah,
more
yeah.
You remember
graphic
Sex and
scenes.
Cinema that you would snatch from your parents and hope you didn't get caught.
Yeah.
Playboy Sex and Cinema
Right.
issues, dude.
Yeah.
That's, I look for that.
Jenny Agutter, I just watched American Werewolf in London.
Oh,
again.
yeah. Great
And
Nick
it's
Cancer.
she's just achingly stunning.
She's a great actress,
And she's an amazing actress.
But what's funny is that back then the it girl was Farrah Fawcett in that movie.
Yeah.
I know. That's
Now
what I know.
it's all about Jenny Agutter.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's funny.
But also these absolutely insane synth cues in that, in that
Yes.
movie.
Yeah.
Again, the Love Shop,
The carousel.
But again, there's such great action cues, like the whole thing, in New You, the whole battle with that laser plastic chemistry thing. But actually, the one sometimes I can gravitate to maybe a 10-second piece of music, and this little piece, and it's so funny because I'm friendly with composers, and like John Scott, who became one of my first friends when I got here, who did Greystoke and Final Countdown, and I would and also Greystoke, which is one of the great scores ever. But basically, there's the one scene where Francis is, they've just blown away everyone in Underground Sanctuary, and he's kind of against the grate, and then he's going to shoot him, and then and then Logan shoots the grate, and it causes the spark that knocks Francis back,
Right.
and then the music goes da 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 da, and it's just this insane kind of jagged, awesome, and as they're running through, and they're running through the dun dun, they're running through that quarter, and man, that just totally got me.
Yeah.
And again, this is like film music, man. This is totally. It made you want to run. It just energized.
it's a character in
Yeah.
the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
the music really is
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this was
Yeah.
also back in the day before, beta and VHS, and we didn't have any kind of media to be able to relive these.
That's a really
True.
good point.
True.
Yeah, that was your
Soundtracks-
way to relive the movie.
More than anything else, unless you got the novelization.
Yeah,
Read
right.
it while you're listening.
Yeah,
But
right.
it's funny. My dad, my late dad managed a lot of hotels and some pretty good hotels in New York, and they would have SpectraVision in the hotels, and I would always kind of and I would sneak trying at 3 a.m. watching the Omen stuff that my mom would kill me for if she knew I was watching. but back to the cassette recorder, I recorded the whole pod sequence from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and I would go to the basement of the hotels and play, and play this and hoping I would freak somebody out, in the basement. So again, I would I would totally record these movies and just keep playing and I think that's how a lot of kids, our generation,
Yeah.
would just.
Who did that soundtrack? Was that Goldsmith too?
No, that was Daniel Zeitlin,
Okay.
who was a psychiatrist.
Really?
And it was essentially the one score he ever did.
Yeah, that was it.
It's really great.
It's a great score.
Yeah.
That's another one of those amazing scores.
That's so interesting.
I used to have a radio show, but when I was really little, I was probably...
You had a radio show?
No, a Radio Shack tape recorder.
Oh, Radio Shack.
Radio Shack, dude.
Of course.
And I used to put the microphone up to the TV speaker.
Me too.
And record things off.
Was it the blue
cassette.
one with the handle?
I think so, yeah.
The groovy one.
Actually, no, it was a black and white one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, was it like the groovy design?
No, I had the square one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a black one that had a blue button
Okay.
and a little microphone.
I had what was because I want to say there was
pretty
Radio
basic
Shack,
one.
but there were those ones that like had they were trying to be groovy and cool, and they had bright colors and then they all went away, and
would
everyone
go
went
through
back
this-
to the square ones.
Right.
I would go through those cassette tapes like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
You know, just
Yeah.
recording stuff.
Yeah, I would record the opening titles to TV shows.
Oh yeah, totally, absolutely.
We're gonna do it, and then you like get up every morning.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that theme. It's
a great theme.
I did. I
got
did.
no problem with
And
that
I'd hear
thing.
my parents in the background. It's like you're too close to the TV. They didn't know.
Yeah,
See?
they didn't get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I accidentally recorded my dad yelling at us too. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Hello.
going to start raining in this room like in 2 minutes.
Your table is ready.
But what,
The Olive Garden is calling.
But Dan, what you said about Jerry Goldsmith too, like I always felt that way too. Or John Williams, a fantastic, gifted composer, but
Of course.
it always struck me that Jerry Goldsmith was more versatile.
Versatile, yeah.
Yeah, well, he
know?
got more interesting. You know, I mean, John Williams though did an amazing score for Images, which is like the craziest thing he's ever written.
I love that.
The Robert
yeah,
Altman
it's all
film.
sounds. And
It's kind of taken from Toru Takemitsu, that kind of crazy stuff that was going. But he's
Right.
literally never written another score like that.
Yeah.
He's written impressionistic stuff, but never anything so utterly
Yeah.
strange. But like Goldsmith would, get to do a lot of that kind
Oh
of
yeah,
stuff.
but I mean, I still like John Williams is always associated with Star Wars and
Yeah.
Raiders, but The Fury is a
Oh,
great
Christ,
soundtrack.
yeah.
Sure.
Dracula, John Badham's Dracula is a good score.
Oh, Dracula's amazing,
But
yeah.
he's also done Black Sunday, Family Plot, The Long Goodbye.
Valley of the Dolls, man.
Valley of the Dolls,
Yeah.
and then all the Irwin Allen stuff. That's
Right,
where,
of course, yeah.
I remember talk about something that would put a spring in my step. Is that I think it was the second season theme or
Lost
the
in-
third
Lost in
season
Space? They
did
for
two-
Lost in
Lost in
Space.
Space,
Yeah,
They went by
Two.
Johnny Williams.
Yeah.
yeah. But the real upbeat kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's a great thing.
And there's a hint in that of what's to come in
Yes.
like The Empire Strikes Back, the asteroid field.
Yeah.
And Land of the Giants too. Those
Yeah.
two themes.
Yeah.
I like them both.
What's amazing is John Williams, he has been nominated for Academy Awards like 52 times.
Crazy.
52. That is amazing. Now, he's only won 5, but there are some in there
That's
that I
not-
think...
not bad.
No, that is...
Well,
yeah.
Goldsmith maybe had a little bit more leeway because after Jaws, I guess, everyone sort of, especially Star Wars, everyone sort of expected the same type of score from Williams. And he was
Right,
hired for
right.
that.
That's true.
Goldsmith, not necessarily. I mean, he might have been expected, like Star Trek The Motion Picture, to do this kind of symphonic anthemic stuff like Williams. But
Right,
he
right.
could go a little bit off,
He
off the
would
track if he wanted.
experiment and just do really unique scores.
Well, if you've ever heard this insane score he did called Shock Treatment, I've never seen this movie, but I think it came out in 1963, and it's just got this utterly insane theremin stuff. It is one of the
Really?
wacky scores. He's like Traveling Executioner is another movie I've never seen, but just insane score. But like, Satan Bug, I think we were talking
Yeah,
about.
Satan
that,
Bug,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah,
it's a good
And
score.
again, a lot of really cool electronics. I mean, he was always like, really pushing the limit, but within, fairly major films
Yeah.
as to how far. I mean, also Mephisto Waltz.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
The reincarnation of Peter
piano-
Proud.
Yeah,
Peter
But
Proud.
But he's
Peter
good
Proud's
with,
nuts.
with thriller soundtracks. Like one of my favorite, Capricorn 1.
Oh, yeah.
That was
You know.
that was the movie that got me into Goldsmith.
Yeah,
Because I wasn't
That-
as familiar with Logan's Run.
And that's another
That's a
one that
good
like
driving score.
stays in my head.
Yeah.
Well,
And
what's-
that was actually the first liner notes one of the very first I ever did was when G&P Crescendo put out both albums for Outland and Capricorn 1.
Right.
Nice, nice.
And
Peter Hyams double feature.
Peter Hyams double. So, and I hopefully have gotten considerably better as a liner note writer. So I can even look at that stuff.
Well, what's
But-
interesting, Jerry Goldsmith, you guys...
We're appalled.
Yeah.
We didn't want to say anything
No.
before you
Yeah,
came in.
no,
but-
you
you
don't
guys
look
have
at
brought
that
up a
stuff.
bunch of symphonic stuff that he did, but for me, Planet of the Apes which is so I mean, talk about
That's really groundbreaking. Yeah.
I mean, that just boggles my mind.
Yeah.
All of the different instruments that he uses, and how do you convey this funky planet that's ruled by apes? And the music that he has in there is fantastic.
I can't even imagine. Can you imagine that movie without that music?
No,
or
I
different
can't.
music even.
No.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it creates a sense of mystery and wonder from the very first scene.
Especially the first 40 minutes up to the end of the hunt when you review it. It is one of the strangest, creepiest movies ever. And
Terrifying.
And then when it kind of gets to the ape stuff, which is all great, it becomes, you're watching a Hollywood movie. But that first, where you have no idea where you are, as they're going through the Forbidden Zone, it's really amazing.
Well, and the fact that the movie is called Planet of the Apes, you know that apes are coming.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
how it's going to happen.
And yet still you're like, oh, what's going to happen? Yeah, and then when you see the scarecrows,
Yes.
it's almost like a gothic horror film in the daytime.
Because you hadn't seen those kind of deserts in the movie ever. I mean, I would have been 4 years old, so it would, but when that came out. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you hadn't seen those kind of landscapes ever.
Yeah.
No.
And they were shot in a very real way.
Right.
Yeah. Didn't seem at all like you're watching a movie.
Yeah, it feels like you're right in it.
Yeah.
But the
It's
music,
also-
when it starts out, when Charlton Heston is talking, he does this little monologue, then goes to sleep, and you hear the lone piano do 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 do, then the and the little
That's good,
wood
Larry.
things.
But
I mean, it's so unique and.
But that's always
But again, think of how that became the opening titles of Alien.
right.
Because
another
it's
great
that
one.
approach.
Yeah.
That's like just this kind of spareness.
Yeah, don't hit it too hard. Yeah.
But it's like always a good credit to a soundtrack when you can listen to a soundtrack by itself. And I really want to listen to the Planet of the Apes soundtrack. Not just in the movie. It's like there's soundtracks that live beyond just a
absolutely.
film. You know what I mean? Like we can listen over and over and over again because they're so immersive.
There's another thing about Planet of the Apes that people remark on the great partnerships between composers and directors like Hitchcock and Herman, Williams and Spielberg. And Goldsmith had a partnership with Franklin J. Schaffner, which people don't really talk about a lot. But I guess it started with The Stripper, and then they did Patton.
Doesn't it always start with the stripper?
But then one of my personal favorites, The Boys from Brazil.
Yeah.
That movie, I mean, dude, I had never seen a dog attack like that in the movie ever. That was so gross. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Bobby!
But the one Oscar he got. The one Oscar he got was The Omen.
Yeah.
Yes.
This was wonderful.
Also great.
How creepy is that music?
really
look,
creepy.
look, and I went to private school, so I've listened to that kind of like, my whole life. But in that format, it's like, oh my gosh, what am I listening to?
And that was the thing that was, people would make jokes about, when they did the Friday the 13th movies.
Yes.
With the before that, you had The Omen. With the and that was something that was parodied a lot.
And that was one movie, like one of my Spectrovision classics, that I would just get my ass kicked for. When are you watching that again? Turn it off! Like 4 a.m. You woke me up and you're watching this. Like, so the fifth time the priests get,
Patrick Troughton is still alive.
But what's interesting is that one of the most effective cues in that film, I just got the Shout Factory collection. Oh God, don't even look at Omen 4.
The Awakening?
The Awakening. Oh, Jesus. But like you see, like it's like when Gregory Peck has snuck back into his house and he's trying to get Damien, and the dog is just like goes. As the dog is walking through the corridor, and it's just like voices.
Yes.
And it's so incredibly effective.
Yes.
And the other thing was the electronic music that is not on and it's actually from a commercial. It's like from some soccer commercial.
No.
It's like library music, and how they ever. It's a. I'm not good at vocalese, but you know what I'm saying. It's it's actually a theme for the dog, for the Mastiff. When you first see, at the Damien, it's all for you.
Yes,
and it's that's when you hear it. But yeah, I mean, again, that movie it's so scary. That's, to me, still one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, because there's no humor. This is like it takes it absolutely seriously.
Zero humor.
I don't know if you could make that kind of movie today, but I mean, what a great score. And
Goldsmith's, I think Goldsmith's synth score stuff in Star Trek motion pictures.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, all the V'ger
All
themes.
V'gers
is
is
great.
amazing.
Well, and
that unique sound.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the opening, I mean, which is still used
The
for
most
next
deceptively
generation.
exciting opening ever.
Okay, look. Okay, now you laugh. You laugh.
I laugh
okay?
too.
I love that film, dude. I love
Come
that
on.
movie, but
I know what
I
you
laugh
mean,
too.
Look now for listeners who don't know why are we laughing? It's because if
There's
you
a thing
recall
called Star Trek.
Okay, Star Trek the motion picture. I mean, this was one of those things where you're trying to rush the film and basically it's black. There's titles over black as you hear this great music, but the music Roddenberry loved that music. And it is great music, and so they use it. They use it for Next Generation, which has become their official theme.
But it helped the movie for sure. I mean, if you
It
didn't
is
have
deceptive,
that,
though.
Yeah, it's like,
because it makes you feel like you're going to get a whole different movie.
Yeah.
And
standing
then next thing you know,
around
cut to an hour and a half later. Like, are we ever going to get out of this cloud?
No, I see. You're like poking fun. I mean, the music
I
was-
can poke fun at something and still like it, though.
yeah.
oh, I love that. I love the film. I think it's amazing.
But it's not. It's
I
not
do
the
like the
movie everybody.
I like the re-edit that they did.
Yeah.
I feel like that actually helped it.
But time has been good to it. Now,
Well,
now we have
yeah.
more affection for it than we did in 1979.
I mean, I will
right?
say this.
I loved it,
I don't know about Sean, but I had that soundtrack album.
I did too.
I had,
still
and I
have it.
listened to, and I listened to it all the time.
I love the soundtrack.
It
And-
had the little poster.
It did.
I mean, I saw the
poster.
movie in the theaters a couple times. So
Yeah, as did I.
I don't know if
I saw it like 5 times at least. The thing is,
Yeah.
it's like I'm from the days of LP. From
Yeah.
the
Oh,
vinyls.
yeah.
And I don't even have a record player. And people give me all these. I don't have a turntable, dude. But I mean, I'm telling you, the one album that I had on continuous play was John Carigliano's score for Altered States.
Oh, yeah.
that is great.
And that's still one of the most mind-blowing
Yeah, that's
films
incredible.
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And again, I just kept playing it over and over and over, until they're sick of it.
He's another one who didn't do. He did like Revolution with Al Pacino, but
He did Red Violin. He actually did a score for Edge of Darkness, the Mel Gibson film that actually got thrown out.
Oh wow.
Really?
Yeah. I think that may have been it. The Red Violin, he got nominated for an Oscar, I think, for that. But yeah, he's one of these guys that. I mean,
It's
but
just
like
not
Altered
his
States
primary.
is such an amazing score. I mean, again,
Yeah.
and it's so funny. Quartet Records has been doing these like great. Train Robbery was just I kept playing it over and over. But also Philippe Sart's score for Ghost Story.
Sure.
Finally
love
came
that
out.
score.
I love that's like one of my favorite.
Yeah, that's
haunted.
a good score.
It's such a great. I
Creepy.
love that movie,
Yeah.
and that score is so beautiful.
That movie's
and
underrated.
melodic. Yeah,
That-
I got to
Yeah.
see that again. I think I do.
main theme he actually plagiarized himself. I think that main theme was written for a French film earlier. that he
Maybe,
did.
yeah.
Really? Oh wow.
I took a film music class at NYU. Royal Brown. taught
yeah,
it.
it's Earl Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, and he played that theme, on a turntable from
Wow.
some French soundtrack. I'm like, wait a minute, that's Ghost Story. He's like, no, it's not.
But yeah, those were the days, man. I just, would have stuff on constant. Again, my
Yeah.
parents had actually some really beautiful, LPs like in primo condition. They like Line in the Winter.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that was
yeah.
like something that I would play all the time. Goldfinger, the John Barry
Sure,
stuff,
yeah.
which I just love. So
Yeah.
again, that was kind of my introduction. Because again, my parents, God bless them, were really into the arts. I kind of grew up in New York in a way, so I would go see a lot of, I saw the original production of Annie and on the 20th century.
Wow.
Music was a huge part of, my parents loved concerts, a lot of classical music, so I kind of grew up as a child surrounded by, an appreciation for the arts. And again, that contributed to my own love of music.
That's cool.
But like I love everything, even some old country music.
Whoa.
Old. That's the best kind.
Well, Patsy Cline.
Yeah,
Hank
I mean,
Williams,
that's- That's the real deal.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Wow. Wow.
While we're on the topic of Star Trek, what's great about Star Trek is, Roddenberry and the folks that came after him always wanted grand, sweeping music for Star Trek. And Star Trek's been blessed because they've had a lot of really capable composers do their music. James Horner,
Sure.
who did Star Trek to the Wrath of Khan, which is actually one of my favorites.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And, what's funny is he told this story, which I really love. If you guys remember the film, there's a tragic scene that happens where a character dies. And Yes.
No spoilers.
Yes. Yes. Because I'm sure you have you
Chekhov
seen
died?
it. No.
Scotty?
But
It's Ensign. It's Ike
no,
Eisman.
The guy with the red shirt.
Janice Rand?
no, come on. So a character dies, and
Senor?
Kirk has this great.
Harry Mudd?
This is great. Kirk has this great line where he says, "Of all the souls of my travels, his was the most human," and it was a great scene. It was a great scene that brought a tear to my eye, and then all of a sudden you hear Scotty. He's playing a bagpipe, and it's a high pitched. It's a do 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 do. And what the composer hated, he said, "How can I do music around this damn bagpipe?" That she felt shouldn't have been in it.
People have been asking that question for years.
Well, you know what he did? When Kirk starts to do his line, he put this high note that's barely there, and then it starts to get a little louder, and it blends in to the bagpipe, and then it takes over. The music takes over from the bagpipe, making it all grand when the coffin is shot out into outer space. Yeah. And it was a great story. I loved how he had this situation in the film that he didn't know how to deal. Then he found a way to make it work.
I didn't know that.
Can I ask you guys a question, being the musical experts here? Because I love that theme and I love that score.
Yeah.
Like, I love James Horner Aliens.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's a common kind of rhythm and theme. Now, I don't know of every other thing that he's done.
Oh, Titanic? Avatar, hello.
One of the first soundtracks he did when he was very young was for Roger Corman for Battle Beyond the Stars. Yeah. And if you listen to the soundtrack to Battle Beyond the Stars, which is a great rousing score, but it's very similar to Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably what got him Wrath of Khan.
It is.
That's true. Yeah, sure.
And he is limited.
But he's also done Wolfen. He's done The Hand. He's done Something Wicked This Way Comes.
48 Hours.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff.
I did a couple of things for James. I did I've done liner notes for House of Cards and. Cool. But, one of the coolest experiences I ever had was literally being behind the composer's stand with Taylor White as he conducted Leaving Southampton from Titanic.
Wow.
Nice.
At Sony, I believe. But James is again, he essentially borrowed his, you could say, from a lot of Russian composers, and he had a lot of motifs and a lot of kind of classical.
Yeah, you could recognize his.
But he was, I loved him, and
I still love those themes.
Oh, yeah. He was a very gentle, very soft-spoken guy. One time I went to his studio in Malibu, and it's almost kind of like this amazing place, but it was like all the German toys that were made in the 50s, and like the metal toys.
Wow. Yes.
That were in the 40s and the 50s. And he collected
the wind-ups.
And all these beautiful antiques that his studio was packed in a way like this.
Oh, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
A bird of a feather.
Yeah.
Actually, Brainstorm, one of my favorite scores by him.
Oh my gosh.
Love that score.
After Wrath of Khan, I hadn't heard of him before because I wasn't familiar with Battle Beyond the Stars, but that was one composer that I just loved that soundtrack. I played it over and over again, and it was a case where it didn't matter whether I saw the movie or not. I would get his score. And that's, we were talking about John Williams. There are certain composers that even if I don't see the movie, I'll still get the score. And now most of my collection, the vast majority, is movies that I have never seen and probably will never see, but I love the composer, so I have the soundtrack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Aliens. That film, I just recently watched a bunch of documentaries about the Alien saga, and they were talking about his music and how a lot of these stings were almost a rush job.
Oh, it's a huge rush job.
Yeah, and how great they are and how memorable they are. It's incredible, to be able to create something that lasted that long.
Right.
That music is ingrained in my head.
He did a cue in there called Bishop's Countdown, which is one of the most copied ramp-ups ever.
This is towards the climactic sequences when they're trying to lead the planet.
Yeah.
That is great. Boy, I'm on the edge of my seat listening.
But it really works. It works for the film.
And then everyone, Basil Polidorus essentially lifted it in Starship Troopers with the fire, with the tank bug.
And if for listeners, if you don't remember the scene, it's once they get onto the spaceship and they start to take off as the ticking bomb is going off on, the music goes dun 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 dun. It gets to the big crescendo. It just actually I got goosebumps just talking about it. Look at that.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it is, Matt. It is perfect. Just like from Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home from 1986. Leonard Rossman, who also did Fantastic Voyage and Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Love them all.
I mean, talk about a composer who really essentially brought in the shock of the new with his, he came to Hollywood because he was James Dean's piano teacher. And Dean brought him to Hollywood for Rebel Without a Cause in the East of Eden. And you really had not heard anything so boldly experimental like that, kind of aleatoric and dissonant, and it was
emotional, very emotional.
I mean, that's really when the game started changing. People like him and Alex North doing Streetcar Named Desire. But again, Rosamund, did Race with the Devil and Prophecy.
Oh, yes,
Prophecy with the Devil.
That's
one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, and oh my God, I just watched the Blu-ray. The single most disgusting thing I've ever seen in a PG film ever was when the guy gets trapped in and then Katad and then just bites his head up, and he's still like. I mean, and it is. It's so funny. I actually met Frankenheimer, who I'm a huge fan of, at
me too.
At a convention. I just like the first thing. Oh my God, I love Prophecy. And I would kill to see the R-rated version.
Yes, I know. I was hoping the Blu-ray would have.
I was
that.
hoping, but it doesn't.
I know because it was excised gore scenes in that film.
Yeah.
Seconds.
Yeah. It's Goldsmith's score.
That's one of my. I'd say that's maybe in my top 15 favorite films of all time. I love that movie, and that music is so creepy. Yes. And never lets up, and it's just like this musical nightmare all the way through that film.
And it's also sad and beautiful.
Heart-wrenching.
Yeah,
like when he goes back to see his old family.
Yeah.
Now, you were bringing up Star Trek.
I was. I've got two more.
Okay. I mean, you want to go through your things, I'll come in later.
Well, no, I just wanted to mention that in Star Trek VI, which I love that music because I think it ties all the Star Treks together, especially towards the end sequence as the Starship Enterprise goes off into the distance, and then all of a sudden you have this sequence where you see all the actors' signatures, and it's like for fans who grew up going to conventions, my God, what a great way to send off the classic Star Trek guys with the autographs from each of the main cast members. And I cried at that moment, and the music is so beautiful.
You're kind of an easy crier.
No, I'm not. But Cliff Edelman.
Cliff Edelman
did it, and he also did one of your favorites, Free Willy 3.
Yeah.
I love that.
I was.
That's with Jason, right?
Yeah.
In 3D?
I was actually at the recording of that.
No.
Yeah. Wait, Free Willy or
Free Willy 3?
No, Undiscovered
when actually the whale signs his name, but it's Willy.
Willie's handler, bait lady,
Chief Dan George. No, no, I was at a bunch of the recording sessions for Star Trek 6.
Yeah, Undiscovered Country, beautiful.
Cliff is he's a great guy, and he really, my wife Penka Kuniva is a film composer, and he really was instrumental in helping her get her start.
Nice.
But it was so funny, because Cliff's a lovely guy. His son is like a chess champion, and it's I don't know if you guys ever remember like Laser Blazer.
Yes,
I love Laser Blazer.
The guy.
Oh no, Pico.
Yes.
The one that was on Pico, and the guy who actually was a lovely guy who ran the store, and he actually helped break a lot, like Marco Beltrami. He helped Marco Beltrami early in his career, and he had a stroke in it, but he was such a lovely guy, and I forget his name, but I'll never forget. Like I'm in Laser Blazer when it was on its Overland location, and like there's Cliff, and we're just come over to my house and I'll show you what I'm doing for Meteor Man. And so I just went over his house and he showed, and then like years later, I ended up doing the liner notes for Meteor Man.
Wow.
But yeah, Cliff is an amazing orchestral talent and a lovely guy. Just a great person.
Well, I just wanted to give props to Alexander Courage, who gave us the original Star Trek theme, which is used sporadically in the other in the Star Trek movies. What's interesting is, people would ask, when you hear, we used to joke that when you hear, oh, it was actually some ladies singing or something. Well, actually, there's supposed to be there were lyrics that were written for that.
Well, there was for the the whole song, the whole theme.
Yeah,
because I know Roddenberry later added some lyrics, but we're not talking about that.
The opening theme for
The opening
for
theme
for Star Trek.
Roddenberry actually wrote lyrics so he could get a cut of the royalties from that music. You know, that's why
really?
there are lyrics. Did you know that?
But they didn't put the lyrics in the TV
Because he
show.
wrote them after the fact.
Yeah, but it's.
I think they're
work.
printed in Inside Star Trek, the paperback.
Making of Star Trek.
Making of Star Trek.
Really?
Yeah, okay.
That's funny.
I would also like to throw out some names, and these are the.
Oh, I got to go to
Sure,
Star
no,
Trek
go.
here. One of my favorite hours ever of science fiction television, and one of my favorite scores ever, of course, is Don't You Think I Know That?
That's Sue Murphy's favorite line.
Doomsday Machine. And Saul Kaplan's score is incredible.
It's like the horns in that. Yeah.
And the horns are just like so strident and just like out of control, man. That dun 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 dun, you know, and just this build again, you know, and going back to like, you know, with Frankenheimer Black Sunday, you know, with one of my favorite films, best suspense film I've ever seen. It got dun 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 dun, you know, and just keeps this theme going, this relentless kind of suspenseful theme, which is what the Star Trek episode did as well. But one of my all-time
and they would
favorites.
reuse those tracks in later episodes, of course, too.
Actually, that didn't get that. The Doomsday Machine did not get renewed.
Really?
To my knowledge,
Maybe it's just assumed.
to my knowledge, it was specific to that
okay.
episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you got other composers: Fred Steiner, Wilbur Hatch, Joseph Mullendore, Jerry Fielding, Samuel Matlovsky, and Gerald. Is it Fried or Freed?
Freed.
Freed,
yeah.
Who did the fight music that we've all come to love? We played that at our wedding.
See, I always like the cue that would go right before commercial too. It should be dun 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 dun.
Oh yeah.
Dun, dun.
Who did? You know who did the romantic sting? That. And then, well, how about the one that's kind of is it? I don't know if it's an actual bagpipe, but it sounds like a bagpipe. Where it's like,
Whenever Scotty's drinking.
Well, yeah, drinking.
But like at your wedding, so basically that's how you lost your wife to Stawn?
I was stunned in this scenario.
Right. Now,
Stan was the character in Among Time that was in love with T'Pring that was supposed to be betrothed to Spock.
I have a life.
Hey, we're
I'm
still
married.
We're still together.
Oh
my Spock went off.
I could hum Star Trek, classic Star Trek tunes
the greatest.
all day.
Yeah, all that music, and it was interesting when they would reuse it because it was like an old friend showed up.
Yeah. Well, same thing as Space 1999. It's amazing. Just the amazing score by Barry Gray. And again, a lot of that was pretty much tracked right through the first season. You know, but again, I mean, UFO. Again, those scores were scary shows, and they're actually
UFO was weird.
It was really weird.
And violent.
Really creeped the hell out of me as a kid. But that really again gave me a love of music.
He did all the Jerry Andersons, right? Barry Gray.
Yeah, most of them. Yeah,
and you brought up Captain Scarlett.
Yeah, Captain Scarlett.
Which is one of my favorites, and it's kind of like getting you ready for UFO.
Right.
Yes. But also the theatrical film Journey to the Far Side of the Sun.
Oh, yes.
Great score. Great score.
Yeah. Really great movie as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, what about, I mean, we have to talk about Morricone.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, talk about versatile, and the man's still alive.
Talk about prolific. He's done like 5,000 scores.
Hasn't he done like the most of any composer?
I think so.
I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. I think
kind of insane.
Very likely.
You must be familiar with Footlight Records.
Oh my God, that was Mecca. That was like my Hodge.
This was a downtown New York little store, and my dad
13th Street or 12th, I think. 12th and 5th. Yeah.
So it was like a record store.
They specialize in soundtrack and original cast albums.
Wow.
And it was this little store, but you go in there and you could find albums you could not find anywhere else.
Right.
And I think the first albums I bought there were the Odd Couple soundtrack, the movie, and Psycho. You know, because
nice.
Good luck finding those anywhere else.
Oh yeah, I mean, from Days of Heaven was one of the LPs that I mean, it's you know, when I would go to New York to go see my dad, I would like literally get off the plane and go right to Footlight Records, automatically. And when I lived in New York, I would go there every single week to see because they would get these insanely obscure foreign soundtracks,
right.
You know, but they had every LP ever put out.
And the reason I bring Footlight up is because they had a Morricone section and you could flip through it. More LPs than anybody else.
Yeah.
Wow.
Most of them from France or Italy. And I'd be looking through these and it's like, these are movies I'm never going to see, but I wish I could hear all these. And, cut to 20 years later and you can hear them all online.
Well, his
wonderful.
His scores, like his score for Argento's Bird with the Crystal Plumage, is so bizarre and talk about experimental and creepy, and so is Cat o' Nine Tails too.
Yeah.
Just very unique. I mean, that was like the sound of the, that was the giallo start, kind of resurgence with that film.
Creepy, dissonant.
Very dissonant, yeah, and like human voices and just really unique.
Didn't he write the best part of waking up is Folgers in ya? Was that his?
That was Skip Morricone.
Oh, yeah.
But no, Morricone.
Good work,
Morricone can make. Also, he can do soundtracks that rise above the film. For instance, like Orca, the Killer Whale.
Oh my God!
Has a beautiful score, though.
Gorgeous.
A beautiful score.
Yeah.
Exorcist II: The Heretic. No matter what you think of the movie, fantastic score.
Just
it's just
go into
weird.
the theater and just close your eyes.
Yeah, yeah. But he's done so many though. I mean, Danger Diabolic.
Oh, that's fun.
I love that score.
The legend is that the tapes burned up in a fire, but Shout Factory's putting this one of my favorite films.
Yes, Blu-ray.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
I've done a bunch of Morricone line, and it's, talk about like terrible films with great soundtracks. Treasure of the Four Crowns.
Yes, yeah. It's interesting that he does some of the choices he does.
Yeah.
Like he could probably do any movie he wants, but he does kind of it really varies from.
I did the line notes for Windows. And
yeah.
actually, one of my favorite films, if not my favorite score he's ever done, is Fat Man, Little Boy.
Wow,
Beautiful, haunting. Talk about music that just makes you cry.
Right.
I mean, that is just an amazing score. And
That's
a really beautiful film. That
years to be released too. I mean, that
Yeah.
was not. I mean, a lot of times a movie would come out, you'd see who composed it,
Yeah.
and be like Black Sunday. Ooh, John Williams. Gotta get that album. Album doesn't come out. Finally, you got to wait
Right.
for a specialty label to turn it out on CD decades later.
Yeah, and what kind of bugs me though about a lot of the LP stuff is that like Waxworks, they're great, but a lot of the stuff doesn't even come out in CD. It only comes out in LP. And I really believe that a lot of people buy this for the art. They're not buying it for the music, but they're buying it for the packaging.
Yeah.
But for me, I want the music. So it's kind of a bummer when a lot of this stuff, and especially doing a lot of 80s score stuff, it only comes out in LP. It does not come out in CD. Chud is an example of that.
Really?
That I'd love that on CD, but again, you can only get it in LP.
Aren't like audiophile people, when it comes to vinyl, they prefer vinyl because they get more of a range or something?
Yeah.
This is the story that I'm always hearing.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I just like CDs, but
Me too.
Yeah. But again, I really believe that it's the packaging is so excellent on this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like Pet Sematary 2, which I did the line notes for on CD, but on LP, it's a completely different deal. But it's an amazing package.
Can I ask you, what do you think about like today with soundtrack appreciation and soundtracks coming out? Like, how is it different from like before? I mean, is it coming so specialized that kind of more people our age are into like the classic soundtracks? I mean, I don't know. Is there still...
I think, it's funny because I think the number they bandy about is 3,000 hardcore soundtrack collectors are in the world.
The same number of coronavirus.
Yeah,
sufferers.
exactly. Oh my God, you brought that up, and I was trying to avoid that shit. Damn it!
Thanks for time stamping this,
you.
Matt.
Thank you.
All self-quarantined.
We're all self-quarantined in this house.
Listen to soundtracks for the next couple months. It'll be
Yeah,
fun.
exactly.
Hey.
Oh my God. What was the question?
About like we're soundtrack appreciation today.
But
and-
yeah, it's like I think the labels that are out there like La La Land, Entrada, Quartet, they put out hard copies, and a lot of the old the labels used to have a ton of CDs, but now like most major new films are only released digitally. Even stuff like Onward only is a digital release. I mean, stuff like Harlequin is like only digital, or you can get a
War of the
burn it.
Worlds, the remastered. The original remastered. That's only a download.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah. Wow, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Wow, holy cow. I mean, talk about War of the Worlds, Worlds Collide. Oh my God, those scores.
Yeah.
Oh,
Incredible.
yeah.
Oh my God. Like again, so much great stuff was done in the 50s.
But like I remember in the 80s when you had the music video boom, you suddenly saw soundtracks coming out, but there were like less and less orchestral tracks and a lot of like pop songs or rock songs on the track. And that always, for me personally, that kind of annoyed me because I wanted, if you want to have all the songs that were featured in the film, fine, do that as a separate release.
Yeah, I
want
agree
the
with that.
orchestral score because I don't want like a pop song interrupting the between tracks so that I'm listening to the music. Like that seemed like
I get that.
a big thing for a while.
Just really quickly, it's funny, Sean. I totally understand what you were saying, and I made a mistake back, I believe it's 1989, 1990. I loved the Danny Elfman Batman music, and I wanted to get so I get, oh my God, the album's out, and I didn't even look. It's basically black with just the bat.
Right.
I bought it, and I put it on, and it's got all this rap music.
His name was Prince.
Yeah, Prince. And I'm like, what the hell is this shit? I mean, I don't want that.
Listen, Grandpa.
No. I wanted the orchestral music.
But that's got a beautiful...
And that made me mad.
But that's got a beautiful love song, which actually Elfman does do an instrumental with dun 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 dun, and Elfman actually adapts that. I don't know if Prince adapted it from Elfman, but I think Elfman adapted it from Prince. But oh my God, I mean, dude, that film was just amazing. I mean, again, Danny Elfman. I just did the liner notes for Darkman, which finally came out on La La Land Records. I mean, again, Darkman is kind of like the even crazier cousin of Batman.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, just Danny really kind of brought that orchestral approach roaring back to life with Batman.
Which he then did with like Dick Tracy and
But before that, I mean, Danny Elfman was great. I mean, didn't he do Pee-wee's Big Adventure? And Edward Scissorhands. I mean,
the Tim Burton. That's another partnership between director and composer.
Right.
Yeah.
I may not be the biggest fan of some of Burton's stuff, but that music, Elfman's music, especially in Pee-wee, is just great.
Right. Actually, I like The Frighteners. I really
Oh my God, I love
like
that.
Elfman's
I love that
soundtrack to
film.
that. Yeah.
Hey, you guys were talking about Morricone.
Yes.
And Morricone, of course, did the music for The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing.
It's here on my note.
Which is interesting because I don't entirely understand what the process was, but to make it sound more John Carpenter.
Well, he kind of went back and made it. I mean, he did his pass, and then he kind of went back and made it more like John. And Alan Howarth kind of seasoned it with some stuff as well.
Really?
But
Yeah.
John Carpenter. Now, there's a certain type of film music that is really stripped down, and I think that would be John Carpenter. But like when you talk about a film like Halloween,
Love that music.
where it's so, I mean, it's 3 notes or 4 notes, and it's one of my favorite things of all time.
Me too, man.
It's my ringtone.
Yeah.
Like I love that, but it's the same thing over and over again. And it's interesting how something can be so beautiful, like a Jerry Goldsmith score, and then you've got something that's just a repeated theme over and over again. So simple, but it works so well. It's perfect for that movie.
Well, he had a rock and roll background, and again, a lot of those scores were improvised. He would just basically whack them out like in a week or so, or like 2 days,
Right.
or something like that. But he really just had a gift for capturing, or Assault on Precinct 13.
Yes.
Which is
visceral score.
Led Zeppelin. It's kind of like him doing Led Zeppelin, or The Fog.
Yeah.
Just like this relentless percussion. Yeah.
It's a very distinctive sound.
Still, I mean, that and Ghost are the 2 greatest Ghost movies I've ever seen. Bar none, The Fog and Ghost.
Yeah, and it's funny too because I think lately, last several years, you saw that more of that appreciation of the Carpenter style because like shows like Stranger Things, movies like It Follows.
It Follows, right.
It's like a Carpenter soundtrack,
Yeah.
and that's kind of cool. I mean, it's like you're right.
It's retro. It's a whole kind of rediscovery of retro of retro music.
But I know, for example, James is not necessarily a fan of James Bernard. But I love James Bernard.
Just because it's not music that I enjoy listening to independent of the film.
It's wonderfully strident. It's so funny.
It's great for the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's fun. I just watched Horror of Dracula really properly for the first time. And it's just so much. And again, like the music is done like Dracula.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like done in ballad.
I love that, though.
Yeah.
But it's like John Carpenter in a sense. You get that theme over and over again. And I love that, and it's scary.
And I'll tell you one of my favorite, my 2 favorite Hammer films. Well, 5 Million Years to Earth. But that's
Quatermass in the Pit is
Quatermass in the Pit.
Yeah.
But again, in terms of full-on horror, like my, Shout did one of them, which is Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde.
We all love that one, for many reasons.
Beautiful. But the other one, and I'm friendly with the composer, and I keep telling him, you got to find these tapes, is Christopher Gunning's score for Hands of the Ripper.
yeah.
is
That's a good film.
Yeah,
great,
that's a really good movie.
beautiful score.
Yeah, that is a good score.
Beautiful score. And also, too, James Bernard, Devil Rides Out, which I just watched again.
Yes.
That's a great score.
He would always have these stings that were like this like whirling kind of sound, and it would make me anxious.
Yeah.
And also think of the time.
Perfect scoring for a horror movie.
And think of the time when those came out too. How much the effect they had on audiences. You know, I mean, that kind of in your face, intense.
Totally in your face.
You know, I mean, very, very different.
But I do think that there's a difference between something that, like, I don't necessarily think that I would listen to that isolated on my own.
Right.
But with a movie, it's perfect.
It's pretty demanding. It's a
Yeah.
pretty, Dracula's a pretty demanding listen.
Yeah.
You know, on its own.
Yeah.
But there's certain scores that like are better in the film, but when you put them on, they're kind of a struggle to get through, but they're still cool.
Now, what about when it comes to library music? The first thing I'm thinking of is Night of the Living Dead.
Sure.
Which I know that Romero went through this music library and just picked out all the little scores, little themes that he liked that fit the movie, but they're so perfect, and I can't even think of any other music going along with that movie. And that's an interesting way to score a film.
You know, it's so funny you should say that, because when I've talked to my brothers about Night of the Living Dead, and I mentioned, the music, and there was this moment where my brother's son, who was about 10 at the time, I think he was 10, I told him, oh yeah, there's this really scary movie, and he goes, okay, I'll watch it with you. So it was nighttime, we put it on. Within the first 30 seconds, okay, it's a shot of a car coming up a hill, and you hear the music. My nephew goes, turn it off, the music's too scary. And we had to stop it. We had to stop the film because of the music.
Who are those unsung heroes?
I don't know, but that music is like perfect for that film.
Well, Voracious Saraband finally released that soundtrack, and the composers were credited.
But then they put it out on LP. On CD. And then it was like every library cue. But also, I mean, the use of library cues in Creepshow.
Yeah.
And even Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead,
Right.
which coupled with the Goblin score.
Yeah, it's great.
Those library cues, especially in Dawn of the Dead, for me, are really creepy. Because to hear them in a movie that was made in like 1979, it's like, wow, it doesn't seem to really belong there. It puts you off kilter in a way.
In Dawn of the Dead, there's that moment where Peter, he's about to shoot himself in the head, and he then decides against that sounds like library music.
Yeah,
Is that?
It has to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound
It
like
does
Goblin.
not sound like Goblin.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
fun.
the gonk, right?
Yeah.
Du-du-du-du-du-du-du.
But again,
Was that Goblin?
No.
Library.
Yeah, but again, because
pre-existing.
Dario Argento was a producer on that. That's how Goblin
Right,
came on
right.
board that film, and I believe there might be even more music in the Italian version of the film.
Yeah.
Of Goblin, where they just wiped out all the library music, and it's just
And talk about marriage of director and composer. I mean, Goblin and Argento.
Right.
Totally
Suspiria.
complement each other perfectly.
Yeah.
That would be another composer for me that I've tried to listen to that stuff on its own, and to me, I feel like that's a little too intense.
Goblin stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, not me.
For me.
Not me. I can listen to it.
Suspiria,
Suspiria is like an onslaught.
It's an attack.
Yeah.
but
It
it's
is.
fucking
It's
amazing.
great. It's beautiful. It's great. But I prefer it in the movie-going experience.
That Deep Red I can listen to. over and over.
that music.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. And also in Keith Emerson's score for Inferno.
Yeah.
Which is actually the first Argento movie I ever saw. And
Wow.
unlike that CBS Key VHS.
Yeah.
Thanks to my friend Carl Morano and his wife Erica. I mean, I watched it like on the dinky television. That last shot, man, and most people know me as Death. I was I couldn't. That really just.
That's a good film. That's kind of an underrated Argento film, I think.
Yeah, beautiful scoring.
Yes. Very good.
Talking about Italian composers, Pino Donaggio. Big favorite of mine. Was one of my top 5 composers. Dressed to Kill was the album that got me into him big time.
Yeah.
And then, after that, The Howling, going back and discovering Carrie. And then everything through the 80s. When he found synthesizers, I got really disappointed because some of his later stuff, I think Two Evil Eyes is one of them.
It's not one of his best scores.
No, but he kind of lost his inspiration. But, back in the day when he was doing these Italian films and the De Palma films, even the lesser...
Body Double.
Raising Cain. Body Double's beautiful. Raising Cain is beautiful.
Yeah.
Not a good movie, but God, what a beautiful score.
Don't forget Don't Look Now, though.
Oh, yeah. His very
beautiful
first.
love theme in that.
Yeah. And apparently Nicholas Roeg was on a gondola in Venice, And this was before the movie.
Not
was,
anymore. for many reasons.
And
I'm scared enough.
Before the film was scored, and he saw Donaggio like standing on a bridge.
What?
Yeah, I think that's how they met, right?
Oh my God, really?
And,
Hello.
Would you score my
That
movie?
guy's got game, man.
Wow.
But Donaggio was a pop songwriter in Italy before that, and he had done "You Don't Have to Say You Love Me" that Elvis did, and Dusty Springfield. It was a huge hit for him.
Wow.
But I mean, talk about like some of the most beautiful film music I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of unreleased stuff that I wish, like Haunts, Whispers in the Dark. You know, these are. I isolated the music from DVD and put them on a MP3 just because I really love them. I wish to God somebody would release them. So if anyone's listening,
Cool.
The other soundtrack that I had when I bought Logan's Run was the 2001 Space Odyssey soundtrack.
Yeah.
And that was what was great about that one was that it really kind of introduced me to classical music as a child. And like, the Blue Danube, to me, that is the definitive version of that music. Like whenever I hear any other version, it's too fast. And I love that soundtrack so much.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, I felt sorry for Alex North who showed up at the actual screening and where's my music?
Well, could you just explain for our listeners who don't know?
Please.
Well, I mean, I do temp tracking professionally for my living, which I call the devil's work because people hate it so much. It's basically you're going through. I listen to one score every single day, if not more than that. And basically my job is to, because the film is previewing and, it's a hugely important part of the process and the composer hasn't been hired on yet. So I go through my own Rain Man-like memory of, cues and I know how to help put music together or give ideas to the real music editors. And basically it's kind of the most infamous or some of other people it might be the most successful temp in history because basically Kubrick hired Alex North whom he'd worked with on Spartacus to score the film, which he did. He scored
for 2001 to score the music.
2001. Yeah, and he did the first I think 35 minutes or something like that. But Kubrick on his own was temp tracking all these classical pieces onto it and then in the end, he felt that it worked better. And, again, Jerry Goldsmith went back, because he was great friends with Alex North and recorded it. And you could watch it on YouTube and see how North's music
okay. Well, that
worked.
sounds like a great time.
It's interesting, but I have to admit, with all props to the amazing Alex North, Dragon Slayer is an amazing score. I think the classical pieces work better. And, I mean, again, the Blue Danube against that spaceship and just capturing space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also...
it's like a dance in space with these spaceships.
Or the moon
the
bus.
elegance of the space station.
Or the moon bus cue is so eerie.
Yes.
Oh,
and also the
Richard Strauss, of course.
The Guyane Ballet Suite when they're on the Discovery. And just conveying the loneliness of these guys.
Right.
I mean, for me, again, the classical music and again, I started listening to classical music really before I listened to film scores. The classical music that hit me, again, Space 1999, oh my God, it was used in Gallipoli as well, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but in Dragon's Domain.
Albinoni,
yes,
Adagio?
thank you, exactly. And that really made an impression upon me. The use of classical music, Mars in Space Brain, how they would track these classical pieces and made a huge impression on me. Also, the use of Beethoven's Ninth and Zardoz.
I was just going to mention it,
Well,
very good.
Clockwork Orange, too.
Or Clockwork Orange.
Right.
These, but again, I wasn't going to see Clockwork Orange on television, but those really made a huge impression upon me. In terms of how classical music, and again, let's not forget rock and roll music, man. I mean, back to the '80s. Tough Turf.
Larry?
Tough Turf?
Cruising.
Tough Turf. Jim Richards,
To Live and Die in L.A.
Oh, yeah.
I
like that score
amazing.
a
There were
lot.
so many great song soundtracks that came out in the 80s, particularly.
Well, Return of the Living Dead for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right up
totally.
there. Yeah. Rock and Roll High School.
Even heavy metal, Fast Times at Ridgemont
Yeah.
High.
Sure.
Yeah, heavy metal, totally.
Great use of songs to tell a story.
Yeah.
Graduate was kind of really the first movie that really made an impression upon people and how you use songs to tell a story.
Right.
And to have basically one composer doing everything in that
not
movie.
really. Kind of. I mean, Midnight Cowboy was one that I had on my repeat that I would keep playing over and over again. I mean, not only he had the beautiful Harry Nilsson song, but also the John Barry, what he actually kind of wrote the rock songs in that film,
right?
And just this, I just like that's one of my favorite films ever made. Yeah. Because I'm a huge fan of. Again, I love Diane Arbus. And again, that movie is like watching a Diane Arbus.
Yes, yeah.
In the same way that watching Cabaret is like looking at one of my favorite artists, Otto Dix, from that Weimar period. And again, it's just the way that these movies capture that kind of art and visual approach. Yeah,
that's my grinder name, by the way, Otto Dix.
Better than Kathy Kollwitz.
I'm glad you brought up John Barry again, though, because of course James Bond will be forever associated with him, but he did so many other great scores.
Well, King Kong was one of my first albums.
King Kong is a great score.
It is.
We were talking about 1976, Dino De Laurentiis, King Kong.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Time.
That's gorgeous.
Beautiful romantic score.
Out of Africa.
When I started doing this, I started out writing for Fangoria and, in all these magazines in New York. And then a guy named Brad Balfour kind of gave me my break with this kind of, not a fancy, but like this thing called the New York Review of Records. And that kind of got me into film music journalism. And I got into it, really like in the late 80s. So I was able to meet a lot of these guys.
Wow.
I met John Barry,
really?
Elmer Bernstein.
Oh my gosh.
The only one I didn't meet, and I did a lot of liner notes for him, was Georges Delarue. He just had his 95th anniversary.
Wow.
No, maybe 85th or something like that, but I never met him. But I've done I did Day of the Dolphin, which I just came out.
Day of the Dolphin.
For creature features.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then they just put out a beautiful Blu-ray of that. Really? But again, that's sometimes, when I do like liner notes, it's like a kind of a personal thing for me. It's like I did Basic Instinct for Quartet, and it turns out that I was the only guy who ever interviewed Jerry Goldsmith about that movie. Again, this guy was like God to me. I mean, and I went to his studio and hung out with him and talked to him. I mean,
wow.
Jeez. What was he like?
Very nice. I mean, the thing is that I wrote for Film Score Monthly, and they developed a bit of a rep because they were kind of like the spy magazine of like film score, and they would not write nice reviews, and they were very catty, and I personally don't write bad reviews because, I actually do this for a living and I don't want to piss anyone off at me. But basically, it would get to a point where Jerry Goldsmith really hated him. And, and it's like I would go to these sessions for Jerry and like, you're not writing for Film Score Monthly, are you? I wasn't. But, he was great. I mean, again, I'm just a fan of this stuff. And I got to tell you, I don't have a musical bone in my body, talent-wise. I can barely play chopsticks on the piano. My wife, Penka Kuniva, is the composer in the family. She did the show Pandora. But basically, again, I have no musical talent. I have no musical ability whatsoever. But what I do have is the love of film music. And I know how the stuff goes together.
Yeah.
And even when I do liner notes, I write it. I don't write it, okay, well, the A clef over here in the fifth arpeggio, does the... And it's like...
That would be unreadable.
Yeah, it's and there are people who do a very good job of writing like that, but I don't understand terminology.
Right.
So my personal approach is I write about how the film gets made, but I also write about music from kind of like an appreciation of like someone who might not understand how any of this gets
an everyman's view.
It's like kind of like an everyman approach to doing this.
You're like a regular Joe.
I'm like average Joe. But yeah, I mean, again, that's kind of like how I approach it is I want to tell a story because I'm a journalist. I wrote for a magazine called Venice that was around for a lot of years where I interviewed a lot of actors and so again, I have that journalistic background. So when I'm doing liner notes, which are the booklets that you get, it's like I want to tell a story, and I love to talk to. A lot of people just write stuff and that's it. But like I'll really make an attempt to talk to if the composer's still alive, to talk to him, to interview the act. Like one of the deepest notes I ever did because I loved the movie so much was for Cutter's Way. And like I, interviewed everybody, even Pastor who just passed away. I talked to John Hurd, Lisa Eichhorn, And unfortunately, Jack Nietzsche was gone, but I talked to Kurt Sobel, his music editor, and I just wanted to, and God bless Quartet for letting me write 50 pages. But I really wanted to tell a story. It's the same thing with Day of the Dolphin. I really loved that movie. Had such an effect on me as a kid, that I just want to convey that enthusiasm because I love this stuff.
Right.
I'm not
that's the best way to,
Yeah, again, I'm not going to be one of these assholes.
Right.
Again, that's the thing you like on the net. And you can find me on Facebook. I'm not the person who I am on Facebook. But if you're a Republican, don't friend me. No, I'm joking. But you know what I'm saying? It's one thing it's like this level of that never even existed. I mean, not to mention incel, which I was, but didn't want to kill people and got a girl finally. But the level of toxic fandom. Just people complaining and bitching
just
and hating on
snarkiness.
stuff. Snarking.
Yeah.
I hate this score. It's like, God,
why? Who cares?
It's like, shut up.
Yeah.
It's like I'm so tired of the level of venom and hate, thrown at this stuff.
I had read about Goldsmith being disdainful of what he called the bottle cap collectors, fans who just wanted every album just because he composed it. And I saw him at a restaurant in Beverly Hills where I was having lunch. And he was having lunch with a much older gentleman at the time. And this was only in the 90s. So this person he was having lunch with was ancient. And I really wanted to go up and say hi. I wanted to go up and say...
But you had your wheelbarrow full of soundtracks.
Would you please autograph this bootleg of Braveheart Past?
Yeah.
No, I wish I had. I didn't. I was intimidated because I didn't want to interrupt his lunch, and I thought whoever he's having lunch with might be a more important composer than
I think you're right on that one. Don't interrupt people's lunches.
Yeah. That's the thing, though. I kind of got into even though I interviewed some pretty big actors back in the day, where I appreciated composers. A lot of them became friends.
Right. That's cool.
Like I went down the Grand Canyon with Cliff Martinez. Before Contagion, coronavirus. Is that they're not movie stars for the most part. Like Danny Elfman, to me, and John Williams are like the two closest things to a movie star.
Right.
Yeah.
They're superstars.
They're superstars. But for the most part, composers are people doing a great job doing what they do, and they're very approachable.
Right.
Because it's not like they don't have stalkers or people banging on their door. They're people, and you could create. You could really establish a bond or a personal connection, which I think is another thing that attracted me to doing composer pieces, because it's not like you didn't have the wall of the publicist there that you might have with Liam Neeson, or whatever, or like an actor pretending to be your best friend in the 20 minutes that you're talking to him, so that you'll write something nice. Composers there's a level of honesty there when you're talking to them.
And usually, if your approach is just don't be a creep, just be a nice, down to earth person, and normally that works.
Yeah, I mean, I've hosted this Peter Hackman put together this amazing event called Fans of Film Music that I hosted for a bunch of years. And again, we just get a whole bunch of great composers into and we had some really fantastic, we had Ludwig Göransson and Brian Tyler, and we would get them into a soundstage with 100 people, because again, there's Film Score Monthly has a site that's really incredibly toxic and mean spirited. So when you're putting this stuff together, you're always worried is someone going to be an asshole. But again, you get the real collectors, and again, they kind of their personas kind of drop away, and they end up being okay people, the biggest trolls or whatever end up being halfway decent people. But that's the thing, is that most composers are completely approachable, and you can be friends with them.
Well, speaking of which, did you meet your wife from an interview? Is that how it started?
I met my wife Penka on Match.com.
Wow.
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, basically, the River's Edge was kind of my life until I didn't strangle anybody.
Ixnay.
I didn't kill anybody. I live in Tahunga, where it was shot. I met I was at Match.com, and I wanted to basically meet a composer, someone who would be into exactly the same kind of thing I was.
Wow.
Loves film music and crawl spaces.
And crawl spaces and tight lingerie and Captain Scarlett.
Wow. Every box checked.
Every box checked. And it turned out that we were both working on the Lizzie McGuire movie, scored by Cliff Eidelman.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
And that's how we met. But we were both literally on the same movie, and by the end of the second date, me putting on Diamonds Are Forever. In
your smoking jacket.
Yeah, the smoking jacket.
That sealed the deal.
And that was it. But yeah, I mean, she's
that's fantastic.
She's a fantastic composer, and
That's awesome.
you're always kind of that's the whole other thing about being a woman composer in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think is a proto incel who had a life and was better than incel people. It's cool when you find someone and she's super intellectual. Just obviously had an appreciation. But again, I can't do this stuff, so I come from an entirely different approach.
It's like a yin and yang.
From the fans' approach, yeah, that's cool.
Well, now a female composer that I really love. We talked about Clockwork Orange. Wendy Carlos.
Right.
Sure.
That music is astounding to me. Like, once again, there's a lot of variety of music in that
There's
in that
classical
movie.
music.
There's but the synthesizer
Switched
stuff,
on Beethoven was how she,
Yeah.
And again, don't forget Angela Morley, who wrote an amazing score for Captain Nemo and the Underwater City. And then I was lucky enough to do the liner, like one of my really early liner notes for, I think, still one of the greatest animated films and animated scores ever written. Watership Down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful movie, beautiful score.
Yeah. And a female composer just won the Oscar. I want to say for the first time.
No. That was kind of a mistake because that Joker was my favorite film of last year, and that was like the one thing I had in the game where I would have fucking broken the television if Hildur didn't win it. Because that score is amazing, and she absolutely deserved it. Her work in Chernobyl was incredible.
Chernobyl's incredible.
I mean, no, actually, the two women who had won before her, I believe, were Rachel Portman for Emma and Dudley for The Full Monty. Which kind of you didn't really think of for the score, but again, Disney was winning every single award at that time, so they split it into two categories. So Disney couldn't keep winning.
Alan Menken.
Yeah, but in terms of winning a singular Oscar, Hildur won. And I'm happy she did because that score really added something and literally inspired Joaquin Phoenix's performance in the bathroom. I mean, occasionally like a composer will actually have the music done already to play back on the set for inspiration, and that's like a total example right there.
Yeah,
Nice.
really beautiful work.
Well, we mentioned John Williams, but we got to talk about John Williams. For what was Logan's Run for you was Jaws for me. I was 10 years old, and I was listening to a symphony orchestra record without being forced to. And it's just like, again, reliving the movie, but being really inspired by it, listening to some of those tracks on their own, like, Out to Sea, not just the da-da-da-da, which is what's famous, but
all the rest of their
the
tracks
adventure
are
stuff
so
is like
good.
Eric Korngold.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And then 2 years later, Star Wars, which, we all bought, right? And...
I bought the story of Star Wars.
Well, we all bought that too.
And R2-D2 step into
Why is Box narrating this?
But here was 2 LPs, London Symphony Orchestra, and eating it all up. I think we all loved it to the point where we might have played it often enough that when we see the first movie, A New Hope, that music is ingrained in our psyche.
Oh, yeah. It's in our DNA
Oh my
now.
God,
It's
And that movie, that soundtrack. You're right. I bought the Star Wars soundtrack, and that got me into collecting more soundtrack. That started my soundtrack collecting.
Yeah,
A lot of people.
I would say the same thing. And what was so cool is I actually got the soundtrack for Christmas. That was like Christmas of '77. It was a double album. It opened up. It had pictures of the scenes, and it came with a poster.
Right.
And what we loved it so much. My brothers and I, we would put the music on and turn off the lights in the living room at night, turn the Christmas tree on, and as the whole introduction played, we took our little X-Wing and spaceships and flew them around the Christmas tree that looked like a nebula in outer space. That was like some of my favorite moments of that Christmas, but that music was magical to me.
And it's awesome that he's done all 9 movies.
But the funny thing is, talk about music being like another character. This has been shown on the internet, on YouTube. Can you imagine that last throne room scene with no music?
Yeah.
It's been shown.
right.
No. It's like, what happens? They walk down this aisle, they get these medals, they turn around, and then people applaud. It's like not much happens, but when you put in that throne room music, oh my God, it just lifts you up. This heroic music, and it's so great.
Although you should try putting the Footloose soundtrack in there. 'Cause it takes on a different kind of feel.
My favorite is the kazoo over the Jurassic Park. Yes. On YouTube.
But I think before John Williams, or at the same time, when it came to movie soundtracks, someone who, to me, kind of mirrored the feelings that I felt when I would listen to the Star Wars themes is Bernard Herrmann.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh my God.
From Hitchcock to the Harryhausen films. I mean, talk about another character in a movie.
Yes.
And especially when you got those Harryhausen films where you've already got stop motion animation that's so breathtaking.
Yeah.
But to have this music follow along almost note for note what is happening on screen.
You know, one of my favorites is from Mysterious Island.
That whole
whole
score
introduction for Mysterious Island.
Dun,
And the funny thing is if you guys go to Disneyland and you're on the train and you go through the dinosaur sequence,
that's right.
They use that music.
Yes, they do.
And there's a funny story that Harryhausen always used to talk about when he was working with Bernard Herrmann, when they were talking about the various sequences in Mysterious Island. And there's this scene where this giant, like chicken-like character, the bird type thing, it looks like a giant chicken. And Bernard Herrmann goes, "What the hell is this?" He goes, "Well," Harryhausen in his voice goes, "Well, it's like a prehistoric chicken thing." And Bernard Herrmann goes, "Well, you know what? I'm going to put turkey on the straw, turkey in the straw in this." And he goes, No, you're not. He goes, "Yes, I'm going to do turkey in the straw." And of course he didn't, but that was the big joke between us two. Harryhausen liked to tell
I did the liner notes, actually, which won an award from International Association of Film Critics for Obsession. That was hard because that to me is probably one of the 10 greatest scores like ever written. I mean, that was kind of his romantic opus. And again, the use of organ in that. I mean, again, all the cue under, where Genevieve Bujold comes to the deck to retrieve the money. I mean, that score is just amazing because, again, Herrmann was essentially Wagner. Essentially, in that way. But one of the great scores he did for one of the least seen films, but a great movie, is The Night Digger. With Roald Dahl wrote, it's Patricia Neal.
Yeah, and the motorcycle guy who
it's called The Road Digger is the other name, but gorgeous. That's
a cool movie.
Score. Also, Twisted Nerve.
Twisted. I love Twisted. Haley Mills.
Yeah.
And thanks to Tarantino,
Yeah.
now I heard someone in an airport whistling that. I was like, do you know what movie that's really from?
But Herrmann could also be really scary, though, too. Like his score for Sisters is great.
Brilliant.
It's Alive.
Yeah.
Really good.
Well, it's a great story when he was met Larry Cohen. You know this story.
On a gondola?
Well, tell us for those who don't.
Well, Larry Cohen was having him score It's Alive, and he said, I want you to write a better score than Citizen Kane.
Done.
And Herrmann goes, then why didn't you make a better picture than Citizen Kane?
Well, It's Alive is the Citizen Kane of mutant
It is.
or baby
That's
movies.
true.
So,
Sean is right. Yes, he is.
what about Lalo Schifrin?
Great.
Another really versatile composer.
Oh, I mean, I just did liner notes for Return from Witch Mountain.
Nice.
And that was kind of like a harder edge Disney movie at the time, where they're trying, they had like being tortured.
Yes,
and,
I remember seeing this.
But I mean, and again, one of my favorite scores he's ever done and favorite movies is Charlie Varick, which just came out on
Walter
Blu-ray.
Matthau?
Great movie. I mean, Dirty Harry. I did a wonderful kind of grifter movie they did called Harry in Your Pocket.
Oh, yeah. Bullet is a classic.
THX 1138. I mean, he's
Roller Coaster.
Yeah.
Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing composer.
And of course, Mission Impossible theme, which is fantastic.
I mean, the Hellstrom Chronicles is certainly one of the craziest scores ever written.
That's a weird score. Yeah, I like that one.
He really could, do it all.
Yeah, he could. He could. Yeah, you're right. He could do Bullet, then he could do the Manitou.
And I just said that.
He can do it all.
Manitou's awesome.
Yeah.
I've actually started doing, thanks to Daniel Griffith, I've actually started doing on-camera music commentary and some Blu-rays, like I did Black Moon Rising, which is not out in sound. The soundtrack never came out, but there's a whole segment, where we interviewed Lalo for it. And I've also done stuff for Slaughterhouse 5. That's a classical score.
Oh,
That was game-changing film for me. And I spent, that was like my Great White Whale. I spent like 20 years trying to find the Glenn Gould performances from that. But that was like one of the most inspirational uses of classical music I'd ever seen in a film.
I watch that film a lot. I go back to that film a lot.
And it just came out, beautiful edition on Arrow.
Oh,
You know, and
really
again, I have a
nice.
whole segment where I talk about the score for that. You know, about the use of classical music. You know, by Glenn Gould, who would actually hum while he played. You know, so try getting that out of the soundtrack.
On this show, we like giant monsters.
Oh,
and
of
so
course.
we have to talk about Akira Ifukube.
Right. And Masaru Sato. I mean, all the guys, there were only 2 or 3 of them, right, that did those movies.
Yeah, a couple of them. I mean, it's so funny. I just got through all of the Godzilla films in the Criterion. I made it through them. God help me. You know. But I gotta tell you, man, the one that keeps growing me is Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
Yeah. Oh,
We all love that one. We all love that one.
That score is so bizarre.
I mean, we got smog monsters all over the place.
Yes, I
It's
agree.
such a weird movie,
His-
and that score is so cool.
It is.
great.
It is.
It is so great.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Save the earth.
Gargantuas is also a big
Gargantuous.
And
More
the
the
words get
Gargantuous.
stuck in my
You know, that is a great tune. And,
the
you know,
words.
and you look at those guys in the background playing that trumpet.
Yeah.
I want to go on.
That's
I want to go on that cruise. Oh, I can't.
I mean, come on, Criterion, put out all like the non-Godzilla. I want to see
yes.
Mysterians,
Right.
you know, Frankenstein, you
Human
know,
vapor.
all that.
okay.
See, that's a
Legion.
whole other box set right there. You know.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a good idea.
That
yeah,
is a
but I
good
mean,
idea.
those his score, his style of music is so associated with the whole Toho giant monster genre. I mean, it's those scores are scores that I can listen to on their own.
Me
He also
too.
did,
Now, I don't.
Daimajin.
Yeah.
Diamond
Oh,
is
yes.
fantastic,
Oh, so
Dun,
good.
dun,
Yeah.
Those are great movies. I mean,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
the legitimately good movies.
Yeah, they really
Even they're
are.
all kind of the same essentially.
Yeah,
but,
they are.
Yeah.
But it's like a Ramones song.
Yeah.
If you if you like that one song, then you're gonna love the rest of them.
Totally.
Yeah.
I agree.
But I mean, you know, the score he did for the first Godzilla is like such a kind of a really dramatic, very unlikely monster. It's very again the movie Godzilla is a completely different film from anything else because it's very solemn,
Yeah,
and really important. You know, it has a sense of its importance, and the music reflects that.
Absolutely.
You know, but again, there's such a great use of brass and weight to
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
for
And the
any
music,
movie.
I would say, gives the suit actor as the monster
Yeah.
a little more legitimacy.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's this choral dirge toward the end of it, which is really beautiful and haunting, and it's
There's a great interview with him on the Criterion, like an hour-long interview with him. He started out being like a forestry. He was going to be a forestry guy. You know?
wow. Now we're talking a lot about composers we grew up with, and of course, if I'm going to listen to film music, those are the guys who monopolize my iPod. Out of the more current composers, it's a little bit more challenging because I don't tend to focus a lot on those scores. I like Tyler Bates. I would pick him out of the more recent composers. I like some of what he did for like the DC animated universe.
Oh, Watchmen. His score for Watchmen is great.
That too.
Yeah.
Anybody else who's more current that you particularly like?
Oh, I mean, Tom Newman. I thought 1917 was remarkable. I mean, Hilder, I think is great. Brian Tyler.
Brian Tyler.
Is terrific. Alexander Desplat is great. Rob Simonson. I mean,
And name some films too. Just
I mean,
for-
the Captive State. I showed it to Penkic. He hated it. I thought that was actually one of the best films of the last year. I mean, I thought that was just an utterly captivating conspiracy. That to me was one of the most realistic science fiction where it really felt very real to me, like this could happen. And that score is just all completely metallic. But it's just so weird and unusual and really kind of burrows into you. Also, I thought the score for Loose, I thought was so interesting and unusual.
That's a great film.
No one has seen this movie. It's
I love that
awesome.
movie.
I've seen it.
It's basically about this black kid who's like made out to be a super student, and he ends up in a war with another black.
He was a
kid.
child soldier.
Yeah, and the whole thing is like his game of one-upsmanship, but the whole thing is like done with like these vocal shouts, and just the music is so unusual.
Yeah.
And just tremendously effective.
Yeah, and the film really keeps you guessing.
Yeah. And also, I'll tell you, I watched it again last night. I thought, for me, one of the best, actually, it had the best song of last year is Bombshell. But Teddy Shapiro's score for that is just beautiful. And especially the last cue, one of my favorite cues in the movie last year was the end cue, where it kind of sums up, where Rupert Murdoch comes into the newsroom. And it uses vocalese. the ba ba ba, kind of a way that you had like in Butch Cassidy, the Sun, the Swingle Singers and those guys.
Sure,
and this kind of triumphant music builds on top of these voices, and it's such an amazing cue. Again, I think that to me is one of the best scores of last year.
Now, going back a little bit, what do you think about Vangelis?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved
Chariots of Fire.
Chariots of Fire, Blade Runner. I mean, again, Blade Runner is one of the greatest scores ever.
That's another case of a score that came out. I mean, it was a year after Chariots of Fire. He set the world, everyone's had that soundtrack. He wins the Oscar. Blade Runner comes out, big science fiction release. Where's the soundtrack?
And then you get the New American Orchestra. The shittiest re-performance of all time.
I remember
that was all that we had for years.
Oh my God, it was so terrible. And you would keep listening to it, trying to find something good about it.
I know. You're right.
Oh God, it was terrible.
Maybe you know the answer to this, Dan. One of the films that Ridley Scott made shortly after Blade Runner was this movie, Someone to Watch Over Me, with Tom Berenger.
Yeah, Michael Caine scored that. Yeah.
But Memories of Green, the Vangelis cue of Blade Runner that was done by the New American Orchestra on that release, is in that movie.
Wow.
And I'm like, why did Ridley Scott put this in to piss off Vangelis?
Did they have a falling out or something?
Ridley Scott, Ridley Scott is like Kubrick. Aliens was like, Alien was temp tracked with Freud. And actually, I'll take devil's advocate. I actually thought the Freud stuff worked better than what he wrote for it.
Really?
But yeah, and again in Legend. But that wasn't a case where basically the studio threw out Jerry's score and then they replaced it with Tangerine Dream. And again, mea culpa, I actually prefer the Tangerine Dream version of that.
I love Tangerine Dream, actually.
And then I love that score. I love the actually shorter cut of that film.
A couple of the Freud tracks are still in Alien.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right,
and again, Freud's an amazing. It got nominated for an Oscar. But again, Ridley Scott would essentially, temp, do a lot of
interesting. Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Speaking of Tangerine Dream, two of my favorite scores: Thief.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Sorcerer.
Yeah. Oh, Sorcerer's great.
Sorcerer's a great movie. And
a very good remake.
Very good remake, yeah. But The Keep, Near Dark, Miracle Mile. I actually love all their scores.
I am in love with that movie.
Oh my God, I saw
that. I want to see the original.
I want to see a nice, clean version of that.
Yes, Michael Mann did a 3-hour director's cut.
I would love to see that.
And the studio took it and cut it down to 90 minutes, and you can tell.
Yes. It feels choppy.
Because I see a great movie in there.
Yeah, there is a great movie in there that I'd love to see.
I still like it.
Me too.
That's like a holy grail score to never come out.
It's never come out officially. I know. It's a great score. And some of their tracks, this is like this in a lot of Tangerine Dream films, scores. A lot of their track sometimes are from their original albums, which I have pretty much almost all the original albums. And when you listen to some of these tracks, like, oh, that's the theme from The Keep, or that's from Thief, But I love Tangerine Dream.
Risky Business was like a pretty seminal score when that came out.
Absolutely,
that was like a pretty big deal. And again, a lot of that was like from albums like Force Majeure.
Love it.
A lot of that stuff. But like The Keep again, I think that to me is one of the best like Lovecraft films that is. A Lovecraft film.
Really good.
It's just such beautiful atmospheric film that just sets this kind of drifting tone.
It is scary the minute it starts.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's so funny because I interviewed, when I interviewed Scott Glenn for a movie, and I asked him, that was like the first thing. And again, they, unfortunately, Wally Weavers, died.
The special effects guy.
And they couldn't figure out, they literally could not figure out how to make the effects work. He only knew it, so that's why the film is very truncated at the ending. But I love that film.
Yeah,
me too.
I hope someday somebody can...
I like it more each time I watch it.
Yeah.
I have the poster.
All right. Hey.
Another composer I absolutely love is French composer Gabriel Yared, who did Betty Blue, one of my favorite romantic films ever.
Yes,
beautiful, and also The Lover. But he did actually this incredible French film that like no one has ever seen, but Varese put out when they were like re-releasing all of their old because I started out collecting Varese Sarabande on vinyl, and they had for a while they were repressing all of these vinyl soundtracks, but like as little cardboard releases, stuff like Hope and Glory and whatnot. But one of the very first ones they did was for this film called Invitational Voyage, which is about this incestuous brother and sister, and then the sister gets electrocuted in a milk bath. So and this is all very lyrical in French, and the guy basically puts her corpse in the guitar case and drives around with the guitar case and her corpse. But it's not like it's not like a ghoulish. It's just like this very lyrical film. But Yared did this. He had
chick flick.
He had such a really weird, unique synthesizer sound, and that is so beautiful and weird. But I got to tell you, I'm like looking at the other soundtrack that I had, my whole other part of my life that I blew a groove into was Phantasm.
On my list.
I'm so happy you brought that up, because that's another one which is like that music.
Oh my God, dude.
Plays on a loop in my head.
On the loop.
So that's Fred
Myro and Malcolm Seagrave.
Yeah,
and
Fred didn't Fred also do Soylent Green?
Yep. Yeah.
But that
another great soundtrack.
But that Phantasm is, we've talked about this. That is fantastic music.
Oh my God, it's incredible. Great theme.
Yes.
As well. And again, I was so lucky to have that movie become Don Coscarelli and those dudes become part of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm like such a huge fan of this, of the series, and especially of the first movie, which was one of the creepiest things.
Yes. But it's a beautiful film too. It's just
it is.
Yeah. And I'll never forget, I actually had like a movie club in my high school. And I showed stuff like East of Eden, but the one thing I really got into trouble was when I showed Phantasm.
Oh yeah, because there's some movies.
The opening of that thing, oh my God, so that was like another hugely, influential synth score. And then while we're on this topic, my other holy grail that I've been trying to convince them to put out forever is Barry Dvorak's score for Looker.
Yes, I love that score.
Yeah,
so that total synthesizer score.
It's an underrated movie.
And that Mean Thane theme song is great.
Yeah,
that's a great. Hey,
that's pretty good.
That is good.
Yeah, and the other holy grail is like, two of them is, and I was lucky enough to do the line notes for all the Naked Gun films. Is Ira Newborn's score for Innocent Blood.
Oh,
dun, dun, da, 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 da. It's like this amazing kind of 50s groovy, and it's such a great
rises
film.
above the movie, I think, for me.
I love the movie.
I like it, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
I mean, the score is great.
That's another one I'd like to go back and see. Rick Rickles is in that, right?
Yeah, no, he's great.
Yeah.
He's great.
The cast is amazing, but it's just kind of like doesn't quite completely gel for me. But it's fun.
You know what I'd like to see released is Woody Allen's score for Sleeper with Preservation Hall.
Yeah, Marvin Hamlish, I think.
Marvin Hamlish did Bananas.
Oh,
and Take the Money and Run. And somebody did a bootleg of Bananas.
Which is the one where wah 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 wah. Is that Bananas or Sleeper?
I think it's Bananas.
Bananas, okay.
Bananas.
Both of those are great.
Yeah.
And that's Hamlish.
And also Dick Hyman, who did, but one of the very few original scores that Woody Allen had was Purple Rose of Cairo.
Oh yeah, right.
Beautiful. Actually, I think one of his best films, and a beautiful.
That's a great
That's
movie.
a good movie.
Yeah.
It is.
Score. Yeah.
I'm so happy that you love Sleeper as much as I do.
Oh,
I think that movie is so great.
It's perfect.
Like,
Perfect movie.
Yeah.
It's all about John Beck, Moon Pie.
Erno. His name's Erno.
It's funny, Dan, how you
White Teeth.
You like it when we talk kindly about soundtracks, but then you're not a big fan of someone who like hates something. And you had mentioned the 50s, and to me one of the greatest soundtracks from the 50s in the world of science fiction would be The Day There Stood The Day There Stood Still, Sir, by Bernard Herrmann. And what is so great about that? The great Bernard Herrmann music, dun dun, and then you have the theremin. So it's got a nice little mixture, a little sci-fi and little grandiose classical music. It's such a great soundtrack.
I'm with you on this one.
Yeah.
But now the funny thing is, you just threw out a name. Now, Forbidden Planet. I love the poster. I love the robot. But I'll tell you, I know everyone talks about, so the music was done.
Louis and B.B. Barry.
Yeah, and these people did electronic music first time, and it's but to me it lacks that grandiose big stuff that you would have in Day There Stood Still. I wanted something more of a theatrical, more grand symphonic music with the little.
See, I disagree.
So you kind of don't like that soundtrack then, really?
No,
I disagree.
Really?
I feel like once again they picked the right sounds for the right movie. That's such a creepy film, at its core, that all that electronic music and the sounds and everything just enhance this feeling of dread.
Yeah.
But that really took off with the whole idea of using theremins, and which you obviously had in Spellbound, but in genre films it really kind of started taking off with Dmitri Tiomkin's score for The Thing.
Right.
And then kind of the theremen became the de facto sound of a creepy alien monster, whatever.
Right.
But it's so funny, I just showed my wife one of my favorites, and the reason I hate Mystery Science Theater because they fucked it is This Island Earth, and boy, they picked the wrong fucking film to make.
I still can appreciate. I mean, like I can kind of I can watch it both ways. I love this.
The funny stuff
is
is
a great movie.
The funny stuff is funny, but I think we all agree that that's a genuinely good movie.
Okay, you were in Free Enterprise, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Okay, so when they're in the car and they're saying "Stay on target, stay," and I go, "Oh my God, I do that." Sometimes when we get together and we watch these movies, sometimes we start saying stuff, and that they say in the movie, or we'll start saying something. Oh, well, don't do that, and they go, "I'm going to do this," or "It's a trap," or whatever. So the funny thing, like
fish
you,
and plankton.
Yes, I like you, sir. I was nervous because I didn't know. I love this movie, This Island Earth. What is Mystery Science Theater going to do? And I couldn't help but laugh with the stuff that they did. And I actually enjoyed it. It was fun. A part of me felt like it wasn't necessarily they were making fun of it. It was more like they felt like they were my buddies, and we're all kind of hanging out watching it together, And
which buddies of yours do that with you, Mary?
I kick him out of the room.
All you do is
they did that shit.
Well, come on. When they have the interocitor pieces all over the place, and as the one guy's walking over, and they make the sound of. I mean, I laugh, and to this day, I do that. I find myself, at home
when you're building your interocitor.
There are Mystery Science Theater is kind of polarizing. People love or hate, but to me, there's a difference between if you're going to watch the MST3 version of This Island Earth as opposed to the Beast of Yucca Flats or something.
It works better for that. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I grew up, essentially in New York, watching Creature double feature. That was my movie education.
Right.
And I lived in Boston, and like the Movie Loft and Channel 38, and that's how I discovered again. My favorite period of movies are essentially 1967 to 79. That's like my favorite. And again,
very specific period.
Yeah, and again, I grew up, watching stuff like The Spider, which scared the living hell out of me, and they're putting that out in Blu-ray.
Oh yeah,
the Bird-Eye Gordon.
Bird-Eye Gordon,
thing,
yeah.
Earth versus the Spider, is that the same movie?
Yeah.
Is that, okay.
No, I'm jumping ahead a couple of decades, but the other film, used electronic tonalities, that was one of the scariest films I've ever seen in my life, is The Legend of Hell House.
Oh yeah,
great. Nice call.
And the scene of the of Pamela Franklin and the ectoplasm is one of the goddamn scariest things I've ever seen.
That's one of my favorite
She's
ghost
going
movies.
through kind of a seance type thing.
Yeah.
And as she's sitting there, there's this eerie music and this little electrical thing starts coming out of her
fingernails. Yeah.
It's so creepy, and the music is terrific.
Was that Gil Mallet?
I don't think so.
I was just going to bring out
Gil Mallet. Come on.
How about experimental electronic music? He would really blend it in a weird and unique way.
Andromeda Strain, which has now come true, unfortunately.
Don't timestamp this.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Come on.
But that's when I did the liner notes.
Did you really? Oh, that soundtrack
not
is
for
so
the
cool.
Not for the square one.
Not for the coronavirus.
No, it was the hexagon-shaped vinyl album that came out. Yeah,
which would definitely destroy record players, but but and try to put it out. But I mean, that was like a really revolutionary. And again,
it works so well for the film too.
I mean, again, it's such a really weird, interesting. That's kind of like Forbidden Planet in a way done right, or with kind of more.
A little bit, yeah.
But like again, now shout out to an orchestral score that Gil Mallet did. Shout out to Sam Irvin for getting out his Frankenstein: The True Story.
Yes,
which is another.
We all love that one.
Film.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Scared the
and that's coming out soon.
One of the goriest things I ever saw on network television.
Yes.
With that crawling hand and
they dissolve the hand.
And when they hoist James Mason up into the lightning hits him, I'm like,
a woman's head is torn off,
ripped off.
I mean, I had not seen anything like that.
So good,
as a kid.
So great,
and they're coming out with a Blu-ray.
Yeah,
finally,
untruncated.
Now that was made for television.
Yep, NBC.
Yeah. And if I could just throw out, at that time in the 70s, there were a lot of great themes. that were done, and I just wanted to throw out a few. A gentleman named Oliver Nelson, who gave us The Bionic Man, and he did Night Gallery in 71, Columbo in 72, Ironside, and The Bionic Woman.
So Gil Malay did not do the theme for Night Gallery?
Maybe in the later season, they changed the theme after a couple seasons.
He did the later theme?
I think it was first, I think.
So he's Night Gallery in 71.
There were several different composers.
Okay.
Yeah, but he did a lot of great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then also, one of my favorites, I didn't realize that Stu Phillips.
Yes.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Who did Battlestar Galactica, who, people chastise, but I really like, but he also did
score.
Buck Rogers in the 21st
I did the liner notes for
century.
that. I did the liner notes for the movie. And tried to put out a lot of Stu's music for that, but again, obviously, my earth, the mind,
I
love that
I
song.
sing that sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm in the park and I sing it.
So do I. It's great.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, and let's not
It's a
forget.
catchy song.
And let's not forget Bob Colbert, who passed away.
I was just going to bring him up,
I mean, the Night Stalker, one of the craziest jazz scores.
the original,
ever.
the two TV movies, Night Stalker and Night Strangler. Yes.
I went to Seattle, and I made a point of going to Underground Seattle.
Nice,
Which is, and they
nice.
still had
Night
the props
Strangler.
from the movie there.
Really?
Like,
oh my God.
you know.
Well, I mean, Dark Shadows, of course. But he also did the Norliss tapes. Trilogy of Terror, Burnt Offerings, Scalpel is a cool score. Yeah, no, he was cool. He was again another great marriage of filmmaker Dan Curtis,
Exactly.
and Robert Covert.
Even Winds of War was great.
Yeah.
I'd like to throw in one. Vic Mizzy.
Hey,
Of course,
sure.
yes.
Ghost and Mr. Chicken
Yeah, I did
is
the-
about as good as it gets.
Yep.
I did the liner notes for that.
Did you
No
really?
way. Awesome.
Taylor
And
White,
I
Taylor
did,
White
and
released
Percepto put out a compilation. I did the liner
I
notes
love them.
for the compilation of Vic's stuff, and for Ghost of Mr. Chicken. So they're two different albums.
Nice.
Vic was a
So you
lovely
put
guy.
out you did the liner notes for
Ghost
the
of Mr. Chicken.
there's a Vic Mizzy
Yes,
collection.
I did that. Too.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
I love that
awesome.
collection.
You know,
He was
people-
great.
Yeah.
He was great. I mean, I just basically went to his house and he just like talked up. But he was a lovely guy.
Wow.
Totally swinging, kind of like Bob Evans, but nicer. But
Really?
he was
Good.
kind of like that hip ladies guy, and he was so instantly charming.
Wow.
Nice.
Just a lovely guy.
I love God.
And it's funny, people think Don Knotts is kind of goofy, funky music. The creepy music in
It's
the Ghost of
very
Mr.
creepy.
Chicken
Yeah.
is very
Yes.
creepy.
Yeah.
It's funny. I don't know if we ever talked about this. When I saw it as a kid, that really scared
It's scary.
me.
It
When
is scary.
Don Knotts says, "Oh, the fire!" and I felt his fear. But the music in the
Shares
organ,
in the throat.
But it's like
That's
I felt
frightening.
his fear based on the music of the creepy
But also
organ.
the blood on the blood in the organ
the
scared the
organ.
living hell out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I even realized it was a comedy.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, we got to talk a little bit about Hans J. Salter and the Universal Pictures from
Of
the
course.
50s.
Yes.
Yep.
The seminal. I mean,
scores are just
the early Universal horror films, like Dracula, didn't even really have proper film music.
Right.
But as they went on later, Hans Salter was responsible for the signature sound of those old Universal films, and a lot of those tracks were reused.
Oh yeah.
over and over.
So they did Swan Lake for Dracula and then a couple others.
The Mummy. I
The Mummy,
think?
yeah.
Okay.
But then again, like in the 50s, you'd have like Herman Stein and Henry Mancini, kind of, and they kind of worked for Universal, so it was kind
Yeah.
of like a patchwork.
Right.
But again, it works so beautifully, like in Creature from the Black
Yes,
Lagoon.
and people don't realize a lot of these soundtracks that we're talking about is done by one person, but with Creature, you actually have four. There's Henry Mancini, Hans J. Salter, Herman Stein. Oh, actually, This Island Earth had Joseph Gershon. Yeah, and even some of the Creature music shows up in was it King Kong versus Godzilla?
Yeah, King Kong versus Godzilla, yeah.
Da-da-da.
Yeah, and it's like what?
Yeah.
But the
Which is almost like
American
the
version.
Yeah, which is almost like the Halloween theme,
yeah.
How many times they use that.
Right. Henry Mancini, of course, would go on to become a legend, and of course, we know him from the Pink Panther. But
Right.
you forget his great thriller scores, like
Life Force.
Life Force.
All about Life Force.
Yes, but Experiment in Terror, Wait Until Dark, The Night Visitor with Max von Sydow, the guy escapes from prison and goes back, and great stuff. Nightwing, he did.
yeah.
Mommy Dearest.
Yeah.
he does a lot of great horror thriller scores too.
Nightwing holds up better than you'd think it. I mean, I only saw it literally when it came out, and then I watched. They put it out with this thing called Shadow of the Hawk or something.
Oh yeah,
And Nightwing actually holds up a lot better than I thought
Yeah,
it
it's
would.
not bad.
Yeah.
I'm kind of David Warner as a vampire bat hunter.
Yeah.
How can you go wrong? Yeah.
I also liked, if we're talking old TV, the Thriller theme, Goldsmith.
Oh yeah.
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 The Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
Ron Grainer
Yeah,
known
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Famous Doctor Who theme, but also The Prisoner. Fantastic.
And let's not forget the Omega Man coronavirus. Now we're living it, dude. I swear to God,
the Omega Man.
In 2 years, I'm gonna actually get to go to a completely deserted downtown LA and watch Woodstock.
And meet up with Rosalind Cash. Somehow.
Yeah,
I'll be the poor sap making cloaks.
Yeah. Oh god, no, that's a great.
And
score.
Jared Kushner is going to be leading the family.
Some international composers too, like Fabio Frizzi.
Oh,
did
yeah.
a lot.
Lovely guy.
Really memorable scores for the Fulci films.
He
like
tours
Zombie.
around. He just toured
he's
here.
still around.
Yeah.
Zombie, The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, great stuff.
Yeah, that is great stuff.
There's a lot of, too many to name the films, but there's so many great Italian composers from a lot of giallo films from the 60s and 70s. Franco Michelizzi, Riz Ortolani, Stelvio Cipriani, Bruno Nicolai. There's just so many, but I mean, they did just dozens and dozens of really cool soundtracks to like Italian genre films.
One of my favorites is Pier Piccolini's, I'm pronouncing his name wrong, Camille 2000, which was one of the movies that made a man out of me on late night hotel television.
Nice.
Man, what a cool score.
Hotels were nice to you.
Yeah, they were. But I still couldn't get into the Fury, damn it. But man,
what a great soundtrack.
Beautiful. Again, the way those Italian scores use pop music, organ.
Just so of their time. Another guy, I think he was a Spanish composer, Angelo Lavagnino. I think
he did 25 million years BC.
Yeah, he also did like tons of spaghetti westerns and sword and sandal films, but he also did the Gamma 1 films, Wild Wild Planet.
Really?
All those scores.
Oh, yeah, I love that stuff.
Planets, Snow Devils.
Yeah.
Vikings.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
All those guys went from a sword and sandal peplum straight to spaghetti westerns.
Yeah,
and then giallos.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And one of the ones, I used to collect spaghetti western scores, and it didn't really matter who there were certain composers that I really liked. Francesco De Masi was terrific, Bruno Nicolai. There was an album by Gianni Ferrio, and it was called One Silver Dollar. Not anything particularly remarkable, but there was one track on there called Hot Mexico, and it's this incredible, fast-paced mariachi, and it's become one of my favorite single tracks ever. I'm sure it's on Quentin Tarantino's radar, if nobody else. But I'm thinking this track is wonderful, and it's got to be a lot better than the movie probably was. It's on a shoestring budget, most of these movies, and you see them now, it's like, oh God, they're not really that great. But you can't blame the music. A lot of times the music is a lot better than the movie.
Yeah. Dan, are you familiar with these guys named Guido and Maurizio De Angelis?
Yeah, I mean,
they did the score. They did part of the score for Your.
Do you owe the money?
You're the Hunter of the Future, which I think John Scott.
Oh yeah, John Scott.
He did the orchestral score, but they did like
okay.
the crazy kind of rock anthem music. Really weird, electronic, kind of bizarre music, but I love them.
Again, we're talking about Italian films. I absolutely love Manuel De Sica's score for Garden of the Finzi Continis, which is this really beautiful elegiac, with about a family of Jews, when the Nazis take over Italy. It's a beautiful score. And also, again, talk about Georges Delerue score for The Conformist. Is absolutely another really, really great score. And Zabriskie Point. And whenever I go Joshua Tree, I always take the long way in, which is like by the Patton Museum, and I'll put in the music for Zabriskie Point as I drive, because it's this kind of really beautiful kind of Grateful Dead scored it, essentially, but it's this really kind of haunting, weird acid trip music. And again, let's talk about Ry Cooder in his score for End of Violence is very much kind of in the spirit of Zabriskie Point. So that's another kind of just really beautiful, ethereal score I love putting on. But again, his score for like Streets of Fire, all the Walter Hill stuff he did.
Yeah.
Is just,
Long Riders.
Long Riders, one of the really actually authentic Western scores and authentic Western films that had been done to that. But that score is really super authentic, and Ry Cooder brought a level of folk authenticity to film scores. That was pretty instrumental.
I went to Utah a couple of years ago, and I went to Monument Valley. And what do you think I played when I drove through there? Once Upon a Time in the West.
I was so sure you were going to say Book of Mormon.
Ravenous.
But
that's a great movie. That's an underrated movie.
No, you drive through some of these landscapes in the West. You put on the Big Country. Jerome, or some of these Western scores.
Sure,
sure.
You know, one of my favorites when I go through Joshua Tree to put on is David Shire's score for the Hindenburg. Which is one of my favorite, really one of my desert island scores. I could just listen to that over and over.
David Shire is one of the most unsung composers. The Conversation,
which they're
the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. I listened to that over and over again.
That's dissonant. That's a hard score.
I love that score.
I actually kind of chauffeured him around town. He came like 10 years ago. They did kind of an up tempo rethink of the Pelham 1, 2, 3 soundtrack that this gentleman out of New York did. That was at Red Cat. But before that, at the New Beverly, they had a double header of Hindenburg and Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. And I emceed a Q&A with David. I'll do composer Q&As, and I did a Q&A with David.
Nice.
But he's just a lovely guy. Such a great person.
And I'm so glad they released The Conversation. Because, man, talk about a wonderful score.
Beautiful piano,
score. Just the same over and over again, but wonderful.
Such a great movie,
and going to the Coppola, again, I did the line notes for The Outsiders, and it's really weird because, again, I'm not a fan of the complete version where he just threw out Carmine Coppola's score and put in this god-awful rock music, but it was just kind of, and actually, I believe Carmine's brother just passed away, or maybe it was his younger brother, who Coppola actually kind of made a autobiographical film about. But again, I love Carmine Coppola's music for The Outsiders is so lavish and lush and just in your face, and the way that Francis Coppola, I don't think it was just too much for him, but I just love the level of sentimentality about that score. So when I did the line notes, I interviewed Francis for it. But I just love how big, and that movie is so over the top stylistically. But I could be locked in a desert island with the 90-minute version of that film, which I prefer. But again, talking about great stuff, is they just put out the Cotton Club, which is one of the. Actually, I'm not a fan of. I always tend to prefer the theatrical releases, but Cotton Club is a beautiful score by John Barry, which I've been trying to get out forever, and also the songs that are so incredible. That's actually one of the very few cases of where he expanded the movie and it's even better. And I've always loved the Cotton Club.
Cool.
Hey, here's one. Maybe a little bit of a left turn. Maybe someone that you guys haven't really listened to. I know you have, James. But Yuji Ono. There is a Japanese anime show called Lupin the Third.
Oh, yeah.
And Yuji Ono does pretty much the music for all of it. Most of it. And he came up with, there's a signature theme. It's like da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da, and it's real jazzy. And Yuji Ono actually has a jazz group that he performs with in Japan. And I think he's up there in age right now, but I think he's still performing. And that's one of my bucket list things is to go to Japan and see him live. That would be the greatest thing.
Japan is so awesome.
We've been a number of times. My brother-in-law lives in Japan. And so I've been about 8 times, and I can't get enough of it.
We were all able to take a trip together about 5 years ago. It was fantastic.
There is an amazing soundtrack store in Japan. It's literally Footlight. It's the second coolest thing next to Footlight, and it's called Disconnection.
Where?
And it's in Shinjuku? Maybe, but again, the guy who runs it is a lovely guy named Natsuhiko Shimada. You can find him on Facebook. But again, it's a score called Disconnection.
Disconnection.
Something, and it's on the... And the stores there, as you know, are so hard to find because things are in the 3rd and the 4th floor. But it's the second coming of Footlight Records because it's got albums I couldn't believe CDs I could not believe I found.
Wow, really?
But oh my God, I was able to watch this movie that has this insane score, actually one of the most insane jazz, and I watched the worst bootleg quality of it, called The Last Days of Man. It's not The Last Days of Man, but Tomita scored it. And
it's Last Days of Planet Earth.
Last Days of Planet Earth.
Also known as The Prophecies of Nostradamus.
And they actually put out the CD for this thing, and this movie got banned in Japan because the ending of it, basically, Earth gets wiped out, and you've got these 2 mutants fighting over, in this, and it's just so crazy and weird.
Sounds great.
And the movie has never been released in Japan because the ending it was too close.
It's so bizarre. Yeah.
Oh my God! Have you seen this thing?
Yes.
Oh my God! But the score is so beautiful, and it keeps using this.
It is a weird score.
And it keeps using it's very much Tomita, but it's beautiful.
It's always amazing to me where the Japanese will draw the line. You know?
Yeah.
That's so crazy that you mentioned. Okay, you were talking earlier about in New York, the Footlight records and this place Disconnection. When I came out here in the very early '80s, there were a lot of great used vintage record stores.
Yeah.
And I would go to like Rhino Records, Aaron's Records, Penny Lane, Sam Goody. But there was this one place in Westwood called Disconnection. And that was my go-to place. I mean, I remember going there and buying like the vinyl record to Maniac, soundtrack, or the Boogeyman. I mean, everything. I bought all my soundtracks. It was on Gailey Avenue and Westwood.
Then he moved it to Sunset.
Pico.
Yeah.
Then they moved to Sunset.
He moved it to Sunset.
But it was like, it wasn't a very big store, but they had all these great soundtracks. And I loved Disconnection. I loved that place.
The guy here, his name was Bernie. He was such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Lovely guy.
I think it was like maybe the mid-'80s it left.
Yeah.
Finally closed down. But it was there since the '70s, I think.
But back in the day, it's like, when I would like, there are certain places like in St. Mark's. They're all gone. All these stores are gone.
I know.
There's like none of them are left. I mean, now you got to go to Amoeba.
That's it. Yeah, but now I know there were so many. I mean, I go to Rhino and spend hours going through. Of course, I'd be buying VHS tapes too, but like I'd be going through soundtracks. I mean, I miss that.
I was visiting New York for work one time. It was late December, and it was a blizzard. And the one thing I wanted to do after work, but before I went to my dad's place in Queens, was to go to Footlight. And it was nighttime, and it was snowing. And I went in there, and I probably spent $200 on Spaghetti Western CDs. And they told me at the register that they were going online only.
Yeah.
And I was so disappointed. And I let it show, and I was like, no.
Yeah,
it's like, you don't understand. It's different. I love coming in here. I love
I mean, we've talked about that before, but with everything, whether it's toys or any kind of collectible, going into a place and physically looking around and finding stuff, nothing beats that.
No.
You know?
And that's what's fun about a convention these days, is that that's one of the few places you can actually go to buy a whole bunch of stuff in one place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, there are absolute advantages to eBay, and it's amazing to find things online.
It's
but
almost too easy, though, sometimes.
Yeah, it's not the same.
It's not the same as a place.
When you go to Nuggets, like one of my greatest finds ever was I went to Emerson College, and like I would go to Nuggets and Looney Tunes for like the two places to go to in Boston, and I'll never forget finding Demons on CD.
Wow.
That was like that is still the coolest thing I've ever found.
Wow. Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Maniac LP. One of the things, one of my fondest memories of the early days of Erased Saraband is that they used to have record covers that were made out of this rigid cardboard that was textured. It wasn't like any other vinyl.
No, you're right. I had so many Saraband soundtracks.
Like Escape from New York was like that.
Yeah.
Halloween 2.
Yeah.
The Howling.
Had
Dawn of the Dead, which I don't have anymore.
Dark Star.
Yeah.
Yes.
All those early ones.
So
and now, after that, they just went regular cardboard.
Right.
But I love those early days because it was also a time when you didn't think these scores would get released, and then you'd go in and you'd see it.
Yeah.
And that was magical.
It was like for you.
And good for cleaning pot.
That's true.
I think that's what Verissa Saraband actually translates to.
Yeah. But back in the day,
seeds.
You had back in the my dad managed the St. Regis, which is what they used for all the assassinations at the end of The Godfather, and at the ending of Taxi Driver, where he stops off for Sybil Shepherd. But basically, you had two double-day records on Fifth Avenue. You had like one on 57th, and then you would have one right next to St. Pat's.
Yeah.
And these stores, that was like my gold mine.
Right.
Like when I was like 13 years old, because again they carried all they carried all these amazing vinyl imports.
That's where I found the Halloween 2 soundtrack on Verisse, which is the first time that John Carpenter's Halloween music was on a record. The original score for Halloween wasn't released until later.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I was thrilled to find that. I didn't know they were good company because they didn't. Verisse didn't advertise. You just had to find it in a record store.
That's the thing too, right? You just go in, oh, hey, this is new. Like, yeah.
And a lot of record stores, your average record stores, did not carry that brand.
Right.
You had to go to specialty. There was King Carol in New York. Remember them? Yeah.
And then the one on Broadway. They had the one on Broadway.
Colony.
Yeah.
Colony, yeah. They used to have this this woman who was jumping up in the air holding a record saying, I found it at Colony.
Nice.
I would spend so much time at Crazy Eddie's. Oh, my God, dude.
God, Crazy Eddie.
Yeah.
Oh, don't
you mean
get me
like, as
started.
in like his prices are insane?
Yeah,
Really?
that
I mean,
guy,
I thought it was just maybe just a guy you knew.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, Eddie, can you let me in?
He was legendary. They had this big yellow facade, and I used to go in there for like cheap VHS tapes. That was the main thing about Crazy Eddie. But at Colony, I found the soundtrack to The Man Called Flintstone, which I never knew existed.
Wow, I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, it's like it was on an old Hanna-Barbera album, but that was a find. Like, wow. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Memories.
Well, this has been great.
Yeah,
it has been.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, and very educational for me.
It's awesome.
It's been so much fun.
You know, for some reason, I thought that you didn't like soundtracks, Matt. But
why would I not?
No,
I
I'm
love
just
music
because you said, Larry, in your soundtracks. But now I
never said that either.
I understand. You know, it's like you're like Mr. Rock and Roll. You like to listen to your rock and roll stuff, but you do like soundtracks.
I do. I'm not the type of person who listens to isolated movie music too often. Sometimes, but I appreciate it, and certainly you cannot in any way deny the genius that goes into this.
And all these amazing composers. But the thing I learned about you was that there is some music, a soundtrack that you listen to frequently. And this, I did not know.
Well, and Yuji Ono, I play all the time.
I have no idea who that is. Is that something to get at Papa Gino's? No.
But I mean, look. I know that we could go on and
Get the garlic sticks.
There's so many others that we haven't really talked about. But do you guys want to do a lightning round here? Just maybe mention a few or something.
Go for it.
Sean, do you want to mention a few?
I'd like to throw out Harry Manfredini. Of course, he's known for Friday the 13th, but he also did The Children, Swamp Thing, House, Wishmaster, Deep Star 6. Good, reliable horror composer. Also, like for you, Dan, Phantasm, how it was like a score that just stuck out. There's some scores that were, I didn't know the composer. The composer wasn't known necessarily for doing a lot of horror stuff, but it's a soundtrack just stood out for me. Psychomania, which I've talked about a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
Richard Einhorn's soundtrack to Shockwaves, purely electronic.
Yes, yeah.
Scary electronic.
Super scary.
The Prowler.
The Prowler. Also, French composer named Alain Gourgeour, hope I'm pronouncing him right. He did the great score to Fantastic Planet.
Oh, yeah.
Great score. There's just a couple. Van Cleef, The Colossus of New York. Great, like, piano kind of score. There's just a couple.
Okay, well, for me, one of the great soundtracks for me of all time has to be from Max Steiner's King Kong, 1933. Some people, poked fun at him because it's like your music follows every little step.
That was groundbreaking.
But I love that. I absolutely love
That's real.
Absolutely.
That's essentially the first film score.
That's real
it's
film
so wonderful.
scoring.
I also love Lee Stevens, who did Destination Moon, which I thought was fantastic. And I know we talked about John Williams. He did so many soundtracks, but some that really spoke to me. Superman. What a great thing from 1979. Raiders of the Lost Ark from 81. And, of course, E.T. the Extraterrestrial from 82.
Not familiar.
I know you're not a fan. And one of the biggest surprises that I had with one of my little soundtracks is I did get the Star Wars A New Hope, and I think I mentioned this on another show. What was really cool is it was a dual, it has 2 CDs in there. And I discovered this quite by accident. On the second CD, I put it in, and I'm listening to it. It does the whole music, and then it ends. Well, I just kept the CD going. I didn't know about this. It went for about 6 minutes, and it was quiet. Then all of a sudden, what happens is you hear the opening music, but it's like 5 different versions when they were trying to figure out the very beginning note where the star was ba da 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 da.
So they're working it out?
They did that different ways.
Okay.
They did they did one where they went, they did another one went, da da da. Yeah, they tried different ways of that opening. And on this, and what's cool
Easter
is,
egg. That's nice.
What's cool is you go through and you hear the end, then you hear the recording guy goes, okay, number 26, and then they do it again,
7A.
and they do it again. No, they do it like 5 or 6 times, and then you'll get to the one that is actually used in the film.
Cool.
And that was one of the biggest thrills for me, finding it on this CD.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Dan, are there other Easter eggs that you're aware of that most people aren't?
Well, I mean, La La Land Records would tend to put in fun little Easter eggs, not in everything, but on quite a bit of them. I think one of the really funny ones was I don't know if I think it's on there. It's like on Demon Seed with the where Jerry Fielding starts just going off like about bar mitzvahs and stuff like that. That kind of I just love hearing it like like someone saying something funny at a recording session.
Actually, talking about Jerry Fielding, there's a bootleg of Bob Dylan doing Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, and you can hear him on the bootleg talking about, oh, Jerry Fielding's head's going to explode when he hears this, and I'm thinking he probably doesn't really know who Jerry Fielding is, but he just scores all the Peckinpah films, so he would know. But I was talking about Holy Grails. A huge Herman fan. I'm passionate about Herman. I've read the biography, Heart at Fire Center by Stephen Smith. I've read it twice. And one of my Holy Grails is actually Endless Night. This Agatha Christie.
Came out.
It did.
I believe it came out.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding.
Oh, nice.
I think Quartet may have put it out.
When? Okay, I'll look it up.
And not only that, there's a Blu-ray of the film coming out. And I just read the review of the Blu-ray, and I thought, I got to get this, because I'm a huge mystery Agatha Christie fan. But yeah, I've never seen the film.
It's a really good score.
Yeah.
It's totally worth being released. And it's like Herman's such an important composer, and everything else has pretty much been released. Why not that?
Yeah, I don't know for a fact if it's come out, but I know the film itself has come out.
And my very favorite score ever is Vertigo.
Really?
That is a great one.
This is fantastic.
Do you have a favorite?
Oh my God!
Going Coconuts.
One
Cruising. No, actually, that's a great score.
I bet it is.
Great film, man.
Yeah,
Great punk score. Wow, Superman, which you have right in front of me. Oh my God, dude! Again, that's like a total.
It's hard to pick one.
Yeah, it's Birdie, which is one of my favorite films ever made. Last Temptation of Christ. I mean,
Peter Gabriel.
Dark City. I mean, man,
Dark City is great.
That's a great movie.
Talk about a great cue, that all that stuff at the ending where he finally discovers his power. Dun, 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 and Trevor Jones is just like has this relentless, kind of rhythm to it. Oh my God, I mean, I love them all, man. Again, I think if I have one goal with anything, is just to kind of translate my love of film music to people who are listening or reading what I do. I mean, what's just so much fun about, no matter the style, because I'm not a film snob, or a film music snob.
You're just a lover.
I love
the
everything,
stuff.
man. And again, I think that goes to my own career doing temps. Is that I listen to so much film music. I just listened to The Duelist this morning. Great, beautiful score by Howard Blake. Amazing undiscovered composer almost again, and Dragon's Domain put out this incredible unused score he did for Agatha. Beautiful, just like, where's the score been all my life? But again, I like everything, man. Again, and there's a lot of great music being done today, especially with how good television has gotten, and we're going to be watching a lot of it.
Why would that be?
Locked in our houses.
Yes.
But I mean, again, you have stuff like Chernobyl, the night before, Westworld, The Watchmen. I mean, there's some. Altered Carbon. There is some great work.
All screwball comedies.
Yeah, there is some great work, great music being done for television.
Cool.
So I like everything, man. And again, that's my goal, is just to transmit my love.
Now that you've been on Monster Party, your word will get out to millions.
Millions.
You guys are awesome to have me here, and I've just done my best to rise to this level.
Of course.
Matt, was there something I think? Can you?
I have a few that I'd like to throw in. First of all, I would like to throw out Howard Goodall, who does the music for Red Dwarf.
Love that music.
My wife loves that show.
The theme song is great. The incidental music is great.
Oh, the songs.
He's very talented. He also sang the Arnold Rimmer song.
Oh, he sang it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would also like to throw in the Ultra 7 theme by Toru Fuyuki.
7.
Yeah, and the Gegege no Kitaro theme, which was actually written by Shigeru Mizuki, who created Kitaro.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff there. And I can't close out the show without mentioning the great Dominic Frontier, Outer Limits.
Stuntman.
Yes.
Stuntman.
Yeah.
Stuntman is one of the most kick-ass scores in history.
Yeah, that's a great score.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And didn't he also do the music for, and I'm temporarily blanking.
Color of Night.
Color of Night, which is not bad.
Really?
The Esperanto movie.
The Incubus.
The Incubus, thank you.
Or just Incubus.
Incubus, not the Incubus.
That's the John Cassavetes.
Not the John Cassavetes.
No.
Demon raping women movie. Not that one.
Incubus.
And the theme from The Flying Nun.
Really? Yeah. Wow. There you go. So it comes full circle.
Oh, that's wonderful.
There is nothing wrong with your convent.
Now, Dan, I have one question for you. It's been years since I've seen Free Enterprise, but I do remember that you had a scene, you had a close-up, and you had a pretty funny line, if I remember correctly.
Oh, the only bush I've seen is in my backyard.
I remember that.
That was the story of my life.
Well, you have you told a wonderful story of your life here tonight.
Yeah,
and
you've been a delight.
Yes.
An incredible pleasure. I mean, this house is just truly amazing, and I'm going to murder you all. And just this is incredible, dude.
We'll give you some stuff. You don't have to.
Oh my God!
I got a lot of it. So.
Well, Dan, thanks for being with us.
And we hope you come back.
Yes.
Yeah, please come back
I
again.
would be happy to skull. You guys are amazing.
A toast.
I'm going to give you the Vulcan salute.
Let's air clink.
Air clink, air clink, air
And let's
clink.
hear it for soundtracks.
Time for listener shout out.
Shout out, 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 shout out.
This goes out to my dear friend Gary Norris up in Seattle, Washington.
One of our first guests.
He was our second guest. He was on our werewolf episode way back in the day.
Yeah, like in the 1950s, right?
And,
We were all smoking back then.
and Gary's never gotten a shout out, but I want to give him a shout out. For one thing, it's particularly apropos because for this episode, because the way I met Gary was that he was the archivist for Randy Newman. I'm a big Randy Newman fan.
What does that mean?
Well,
Randy Newman?
No, I know who Randy Newman is. What does that mean? His title was he like living with him? Or?
No. Randy would give him like boxes and boxes full of old tapes, and Gary would go through them and catalog them and archive them basically.
Wow.
Okay.
Including all the film music stuff. So he'd have outtakes from like Ragtime and Avalon and The Natural. It was incredible.
Wow.
But you know that like I could say that I'm an archivist of whoever, but they don't even know who I am. You know,
But he was getting paid to be an archivist.
this was
Yeah.
he had
He
a
was
relationship
officially-
with.
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
all right,
exactly.
good.
And that also led to Gary helping Taylor White produce Randy's first film score on CD, which was Cold Turkey, that he did
Nice.
for Norman Lear from the 70s.
that's right. Yeah, that's a
And-
great movie.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
We never thought that score would get released, but Taylor released it, and he was kind enough to put Gary's name and my name as a special thanks on the CD.
Wow.
Look
That's
at
my
you.
soundtrack claim to fame.
Cool.
Wow.
And Gary has also been, as one of our first guests and an old friend, he represented Monster Party, just walking around in our T-shirt at
That's
Monster
right.
Palooza.
Always great. Always a
And
good thing.
Most recently, he's tried to help get the word out on social media about our Patreon, spread the
Cool.
news.
Very
so
nice.
Gary, we really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And love you, man.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary.
Are you going to say thank you to Gary?
Yes, thank you. I did already.
Oh, okay.
What is with you tonight?
I just want to make sure everyone says thank
did. I've
you.
been very
persnickety.
appreciative.
Don't you want to say thank you? Don't you want to thank the
did.
people? But be enthusiastic and grateful, humble.
So you're going to give us notes on every sentence we utter? Wow.
Thank you, Larry, for telling me to thank Gary.
You're welcome, Sean.
Well, I've got some shout outs
All right.
that are two-pronged shout outs.
I love two prongs.
Yeah, because they're not only us saying thanks to listeners, but it's also us getting presents from those listeners.
Wow.
And let's start with the first one. Now, this is a friend of the show going way back, and he's true blue. A great guy. We all love him. Jim Jenkins.
Jim Jenkins.
Now, about a month ago, Jim sent us a package, and we got caught up with stuff. So the last show, we didn't get a chance to open his package, but now we're going to do that.
All right.
Do it on the air. And so I'm opening it up right now, this box, and it's a triangular box. So I'm intrigued.
It's like a Triskelion box.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, so let's open this thing up and see what we got here.
Yes, open it. I love it when
so-
people send us gifts.
We've got, it looks, I can't tell if there's different things that are wrapped up because there's just some bubble wrap.
Bubble wrap.
No. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wow.
Drum roll.
Oh. You know what this is?
No.
This is what you call Monster Party fluid.
Oh, my God.
Oh, it's a lot of bubble wrap. This guy took care of us. Wow. Holy shit. A giant bottle of Grey Goose.
Nice.
Grey Goose.
Awesome.
Fancy.
Can't go wrong with the Grey Goose.
Jesus. Wow, that is a beautiful
Of course,
thing.
you're opening up at the end of the show. Now, are we supposed to drink this now?
Well, maybe. Or maybe we'll save it for the next one.
Yes, Larry. Yeah. Let's start drinking heavily now.
We're only driving in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Patreon.
Oh, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, a really, really sweet gift.
Monster Party and booze
yeah.
go together perfectly.
Yeah. 40% alcohol, perfect.
It's got a little goose on it.
Yeah, no, this is a good
This is
brand.
good
This is
brand.
not the usual swill that we drink.
Yeah.
Yeah,
By the
this is
way,
not- this is
Friends
not-
vodka.
Yeah, Kirkland. It's not. This is the real deal.
By the
Thank
way,
you so much,
Thank
Jim.
you, Jim. And the reason that we're out of our inventory of T-shirts is because Jim bought about half of them.
Good man.
He recently shared an interesting, amusing little story of how he met Shag, the artist Shag, and had him sign not a Shag piece of art, but he had him sign the Monster Party T-shirt because
Nice.
Shag was a guest on our show.
That's awesome.
And I'm wondering what must have been going through Shag's mind.
Yeah.
No, but he did tell Jim that he had a good time on the show.
Oh, yeah.
so-
Shag was awesome.
And Jim, thank you for sharing that.
Did he say it the way that you just said it?
Or did he say he had a great time?
He said that he had a good time.
No, actually, he said he had. I think he said great. I think he said great.
Okay, all right.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will accept that.
So thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
And our next present that we got.
There's more?
Yes, there is more.
Wow.
This has come from Ryan Shaw.
Ryan
Oh.
Shaw.
Ryan Shaw sent us an envelope.
It's padded.
Padded envelope, the fancy kind.
yeah.
And I'm opening it now, and I'm pulling out what is inside. And there's a little note. Wait a minute.
Okay.
We got the note, but we also, I'm sure I have to read these all together.
Okay.
So, a bunch of heads.
Heads.
Cool.
Molded heads.
Oh, they look like creepy heads.
They look like Mego heads.
Really?
And so let's read the note here. Hey, Monster Party gang. Wanted to share my new custom with you guys. Yes, even Larry.
Thanks, buddy.
When I got the new Mego mummy, I thought the head sculpt was a bit lacking. So I sculpted a new head in wax and cast it in plastic.
No.
The surprising part is after posting it on Facebook, the guys at Castaway Toys, now Plastic Zombie Toys, bought the original and are now turning it into a production figure.
No way.
Hope you all enjoy them. Thanks again for all the hours of podcast fun, Ryan Shaw.
Wow, Ryan. Thank you.
Ryan.
That is
Oh
pretty
my
awesome.
gosh! You know, I thought that mummy was kind of.
I do like the mummy figure, but hey,
I'm dying to see
I'm-
this
I-
this head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I see the creepy
Variants
head?
of any kind are cool.
Mummy head?
Yeah.
So here I am, passing out
All right.
the Mego heads.
Oh my god!
Look at that.
Oh my!
beautiful detail.
This is amazing.
Incredible, right?
Oh, whoa, this is really cool.
Like really good.
This is really good.
Yeah.
Sean,
It's
check
like
out the
a-
eye.
Yeah, it's like a little bit reminiscent of the mod zombie from the 70s Mego zombie, but more gruesome and detailed.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's a cool,
A little more
zombie-esque.
realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
very nice.
That is beautiful.
Awesome.
Nice.
It also reminds me a little bit of The Living Mummy, if I remember it correctly. The Marvel.
Oh, yeah,
Mummy.
yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, very nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
Ryan, excellent job. Thank you so much for sending these. We all really appreciate them.
It's really cool.
And anything else you make that you think we'll like, we'll take it.
yeah.
Very impressive.
Now,
We love stuff.
now, just a question. Now, do I have to take my mummy and take the head off it and put his Ryan's mummy head on?
Larry,
Yes.
you don't have to do anything.
Or you could buy like a
All-
used Mego body.
This is what I would say. I actually have some Mego bodies, a bunch of them.
Right.
So if you needed one, what I would say is I would get the Mego body, put that head on it, and then just get some gauze.
No.
And no, wait a minute, hold on. And then wrap it up, but then you could like
dirty it up.
Yeah, dirty it up.
Blood on it.
You don't like having fun with stuff?
No, I would. I guess I'd rather use the actual toy mummy. You know, the Mego one that it's all done. It's all done. It's
Okay,
ready to
all
go.
right, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair
but
enough.
then
I'm
they
not
have-
going to
yeah.
take bandages or toilet paper, wrap it around.
I
and
didn't.
dirt it
Did
up,
I
you
ever
know?
say toilet paper?
No?
You won't
but-
actually be able to find.
Yeah, there is no more. There is no more toilet paper.
Whoa! Woo!
Thanks for time stamping. Hey.
Comedy torn from the front page.
This is awesome, though.
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
great. And I'm looking forward to doing my custom at least.
Yeah. Cool.
So we are going to have to paint these.
You know,
Yes,
this is
Larry.
one. Since it's a mummy, I think you can kind of get away without painting it if you
just,
didn't want
grade
to.
up a little bit.
No,
Or
you
just-
have to
yeah.
paint it
You can
because
add-
look at the
just,
little eyes.
Shade it a little bit.
Yeah, or you could maybe do like what are they? Where you like dry brush it to bring out the detail?
Yeah. That'd be
Yeah.
good because it's really nicely textured.
It is beautifully.
Yeah,
textured.
really nice.
Cool.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Did you say
long
thank
pause.
you?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
All right, good. So now we come to the moment you've been waiting for. The Monster Party Patreon raffle! Raffle! Now, like we said last time, there are some things that you should know about this raffle. First of all, when we do a raffle, we want you to have the best thing that you possibly could get that appeals to the things that you like. So if you win the raffle, we're not just going to give you some Megaforce wind chimes or something like that.
I would love that.
I know you would. See, I would find that for you if you were the winner. We are going to put together a box of things that we think you will like, but you need to tell us when you win the type of stuff that you like. Now,
Megaforce spandex. Perhaps.
sure, if you can get that. Oh my God, that'd be like my birthday. But many of the prizes that we have to choose from were donated by the Jason Lindsay collection. Jason Lindsay, we all love and adore.
Yes.
Jason Lindsay?
Yes, we do.
Biff Bang Pow.
Biff Bang Pow toys. So he gave us a bunch of great stuff for this raffle. So if you happen to like Kiss, The Big Bang Theory, Venture Brothers, Adventure Time, Big Lebowski, Doctor Who, Star Trek, old and new, then let us know because we have some great treasures awaiting you. But now, without any further ado, we should probably get to the raffle. Yes?
Raffle.
So this is how we're going to do it.
I'm baffled over the raffle.
I've got the pumpkin full of names.
Full of names.
I'm going to give it to James. James, you're going to shake it.
I'll shake it.
Oh, James is going to shake it then.
And then you're going to pick the name
And I'm going to read
and
it.
you're going to read it.
Right.
He read it last time.
Do you want to
We can
switch it up? I don't care.
Yeah, I can shake it.
So
this
do you
time.
want to shake it and then you pick
Pull
the
it,
name
and then you can
Yeah.
read it.
Okay, let's do it that way. That's it.
Because I want us to be transparent and honest.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're keeping the show fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm shaking.
Shake it. No. But like shake the shit out of it.
Fucking hell out of
Yeah.
it. I'm shaking, man. I'm
And
shaking.
don't when
it.
you put your hand in, don't
shaking it.
look at any. Oh well,
No, you
you're.
didn't.
I have to
You're
go
gonna.
like
You're.
it.
You already got confused.
here we
I'm
go.
already confused. Yes.
Ow, stop shaking.
Larry is picking one out.
I am rummaging around.
Rummaging.
Okay.
He's
I am
seriously
picking out-
rummaging.
Okay, this is very
I
exciting.
am picking out a name.
He has picked out a name.
Right. He's handing it to James.
I'm going to
James,
read the name.
James.
Read
going to read
the
it.
name.
And the name is Matt Dakota.
Matt Dakota! What? Oh my
First
God!
we had Angela McNichols. Now we have
Matt Dakota.
Unbelievable.
I swear to you guys that
I
this
know.
is
This was not
freaking
fixed.
random.
This
Not
really
fixed.
is.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
Because
Yeah.
Matt is a dear friend of ours.
He's,
And
yes,
he's a
one of our diehard
long time,
fans.
yeah, long
Yes.
time listener. We love his son Sig.
Sig, and
My
they were
God.
awesome cosplayers.
Yes,
Yes.
And so we're
Awesome.
very happy for Matt.
Yes.
And
Congratulations,
yeah.
Matt.
But once again, you have to know that even though Matt has won, he has the opportunity to win again. Because we just put the names right back in.
That's right.
You can win as many times as chance allows.
That's right.
Yes.
Really?
How do you like that?
Oh, wow.
It's pretty exciting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great deal.
Great deal.
Well, it's fair because, Patreon supporters, they, subscribe every month. So why not renew the name
Exact.
in the
Thank
That's
you,
right.
James.
Wow.
Thank you.
James.
So congratulations, Matt.
Yes. Yeah.
And
So it's best if people are listening. If they haven't done the Patreon, they should jump into
You-
it.
oh,
You
yeah.
know?
and once again, it is really easy to do. All you got to do is it's $5 a month, which is, as you say, peanuts.
That's like a postage stamp.
Right. It's a very expensive. It's a vintage.
To Japan.
It's a priority mail.
Yeah. $5 a month gets you bonus audio and video that the video's coming, and you get automatic entry in the raffle. To join, all you got to do is just go to patreon.com/join/monster_party_podcast. Or if you have trouble with that, just go to patreon.com.
You'll find us.
And search Monster Party. You'll find us. Click the join button, follow the directions, and you are now part of the great Monster Party Patreon family. You are a true Monster Partier.
Yeah!
Woo! And speaking of Patreon, we have a bunch of new patrons.
Oh my God.
Since the last time we did this.
The list is growing.
That's right.
Nice.
We would like to welcome Henrik Swenson,
Henry!
Randall B. Perkins,
Randall!
Jennifer Stevens,
Jennifer!
Stephen Parker,
Steven!
Costello Strange,
Ooh, thanks, buddy.
Dan Igenes,
You're the man.
Neil McLean,
Neil!
Justin Gibson,
Justin!
John Abarca,
John!
Sailor Galaviz from the Velvet Scream,
The Velvet
podcast?
Dream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Doug Busick,
Doug!
and Ted Haynes.
Ted!
Last guest.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
Amazing monster maker.
Yes.
Yeah.
So welcome, and you are now a proud Monster Party.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Cool.
And please tell your friends, spread the word, because we're just going to add more and more stuff to this Patreon page, and I think you're going to be pleased.
And let's remind our listeners, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Monster Party TV. Our Twitter handle at Monster Party HQ. Instagram is also Monster Party HQ. On whatever platform you're listening to us on, we'd love it if you'd write a review, and chances are we'll read it on the air.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, write a review.
Yeah.
Let us know how we're doing.
Yeah.
Now, I know that a lot of people have been affected by the coronavirus, but we just want to let you know that no matter what happens during this debacle, that we are here for you. We are the convention that was canceled.
Yeah.
We
we're
are the place to go where you can get that fix, that Monster Kid fix.
in safety.
In safety.
Yeah.
We're not in your room. Do you even want that? I don't think so.
But yeah, I mean, look, it's sometimes scary times, troubled times, but Monster Party, yeah, it's true. Monster Party is here just to embrace the stuff we love, to not have to worry about that kind of stuff, and just escape to the wonderful world of horror and sci-fi with us.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
you can party with your monster buddies, and you can still be in isolation.
Yeah, yeah. If you want to be, right?
Yeah. We wouldn't even be hanging together
Right.
if it weren't
Yeah.
for this.
Yeah, it's true. Right?
Yeah.
yeah.
In
So-
fact, we might have to start talking about doing it remotely, but that's for later, I think.
Oh, wow. Oh, I say just a lot of Purell, just a lot
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
if we can find it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, really.
We could all shower. Come on. Come on, guys. Let's take a shower.
The stock market is tanked, but shares in Charmin have gone up like 5,000%.
So anyway, gang, take care, wash your hands, do all the stuff that they tell you to do, and listen to Monster Party.
Yep.
On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Sean Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
Listen to soundtracks of every variety. Da 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 da. God, I want to kiss you. Pull that as close as
There we go.
and then hug
It's
it.
gonna have to be sterilized. Sterilized.
Test.
Jackson Roykirk is the creator. Fulfill the prime directive.
That's a great scene.
It's fantastic. I love that.
When he
Love
did that, I
episode.
flipped out.
Nomad. Did you ever see that one?
Of course.
You wait, not I. He said, I am nomad.
Sure.
Analyzing. The other one I love is what's his name in the Wolf in the Fold. Can you push your thing back? See your box there.
Die.
See your the flag on your box.
guy's awesome.
The flag on your microphone. It's coming apart. Could you push that back?
Test. Matt, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
You sound loud and clear.
Yeah, you do.
I sound muffled to myself, but if you guys can hear me loud and clear, that's fine.
Do I sound okay? I sound good,
You sound great.
I sound good. Right. Soundtracks.
Soundtracks.
Oh my god.
Soundtracks.
I can't believe you like read all this shit. You know what I mean? I've done like over 100 C's with my fucking liner notes. You don't have any here. What's up with that shit?
Yeah, nice one.
Oh my god.
Nice, James.
What did I do? What did I do now? Did I do something?
Are these all yours?
Thank you for pointing it out to me that Larry did something wrong.
Is swearing okay on this shit?
Yes, yes it is, damn it.
In fact, it's mandatory.
No, it's not mandatory. He doesn't have to go and say, damn this, damn that, but, you know.
Fudge. Gee Willikers. Nation.
Blast it.
Son of a biscuit. That was what my mom always said when she dropped
really?
a casserole or something, you know.
I would say, Christ on a bicycle.
Christ on a bicycle. Wow, that's
Oh my god! Like on the new RoboCop Blu-ray, which I'm on, there's a hysterical thing where they like compare the TV version to the release to the theatrical. It's absolutely hysterical.
Okay.
Wait, TV of
Are we good with levels? Are we good with
Of
levels?
TV version.
It sounds great.
Oh, RoboCop.
RoboCop.
Yeah,
Okay,
Arrow
good.
did that.
You
with,
sound great.
Okay, good.
Did you know they came out with a figure of the guy that gets melted?
Oh yeah.
Reaction came out with yes.
Oh, how cool.
I mean, I thought, who's going to make a figure of that guy? Reaction. And I was thrilled.
Wow.
Barbarella.
You bought it?
I'm sorry?
Did you buy it? Or you
Wow,
just
that's really
I'm Mr. Reaction.
Wow.
Are you really?
You reacted to it.
I did.
Nice.
This is great. This is some great banter. Okay.
No, you know what they came out with?
Man has a schedule.
Really quickly, they came out with little stands. So you can now put your little figure on a little stand. It has the little peg, but the issue is the hole in the little foot. It's only big enough for those figures. Typically, the other ones, the Remco that have a little hole, it won't work with them.
Oh my god. Well,
Wow. That's
Sacrilegious.
That's great. Okay.
Everyone has a list. James has a list.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Sorry, I forgot my list.
No, this is the intro.
Oh.
My list is in
Thanks
my
for being
head.
prepared, buddy. Yeah. Your list is up there.
Oh,
Thanks again for coming.
yeah.
It's great.
Thank
great
you
to
for
have
having me here, man.
We've been wanting to do a soundtrack.
Your guys' high energy is just gonna blow me the fuck away. No. I'm a little more sedate.
No, James is Mr. Energy.
Okay, good.
Oh,
Let me tell
it's
you.
being sarcastic.
No.
Oh my god, you've got an eagle. That's what I want. You know, I actually had those. I had those fucking eagles when I was a kid. I had them, and I think I destroyed them.
They put out a nice one. That's the one
Yeah.
I got, I think.
Oh my god.
90s or 2000.
Oh my god, I had both of those.
But there's still, it's amazing. There's tons of like if you follow like Monsters in Motion or Mock Toys.
Oh yeah.
But those are the steel. I had the steel cast
stuff
ones.
constantly.
I had the Corgi.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Corgi one.
Yeah.
But I missed out on the Fireball XL5 and the
Yeah, I have the Stingray.
Supercar.
I have Stingray.
Stingray. I have
And I have all the UFO. I have all the UFO ones.
God, this is so beautifully put together, like, you know, with themes, and it's great.
Do you remember they also made a cool Tarzan scene? There was like
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there's a little plastic Tarzan, and there was like it's not like he drove a car, but there was like a safari car. Do you remember this? And the little corgi metal toys.
Oh yeah, probably. I mean, I had a bunch of them. I mean,
And
again,
I did think it was interesting that Tarzan, it has him swinging on a vine, but then there's a car, and it's like, well, Tarzan doesn't even know how to drive.
Tarzan gets tired.
So Tarzan,
Jungle Uber.
so Tarzan, who's never driven before, he's been swinging on vines his whole life. He goes, look, vehicle, I drive this, and he hops in and he.
The chimp does it.
See, now that makes
Cheetah.
more sense.
Cheeto? Is that what his
Cheetah.
name?
the chimp, yeah.
Cheetah.
oh my God, you guys have got your shit together. This is
Well,
incredible.
You're the first person to ever say that.
no. We're pretty sharp.
So, at what point during this does someone go, Rupert,
Mom!
No.
But I don't mind if you do it, but lower it. God, I love that movie. Okay. All right. Shall we start?
Did you explain
do
to
it.
him what you're going to do?
I did. So, not that part of it.
Okay.
But, so I'm going to do a little intro, and then I'm going to introduce these guys. We're going to introduce the topic.
You're going to introduce us.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or
we introduce ourselves.
You introduce ourselves. Okay. All
You know,
right.
something,
You okay now? You all right?
I thought something new today.
No. You know what? I thought I'd take over for this show. Sorry, internal squabbles. But and then
I'm going to introduce you.
Yes,
and then we start
with a nice build.
Nice build.
Here
Yes,
we go.
yes.
All right, here we go. Ready? Moment of silence. Greetings, everyone. And welcome to the soundtrack of your dreams
or nightmares.
Nightmares. God, you had to jump all over me.
Wow. Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
Can you please do that again?
Yes.
But say nightmares.
And
That's what I was
can
gonna do.
I ask you
Dreams and nightmares.
Can I just ask you a stupid question? You said the word soundtracks.
Is that what it's called?
What's the name of our topic?
Soundtracks.
Soundtracks.
I would say that like the
Musical.
See, I write these whenever I do these things. I write
the
these.
sound of your dreams and nightmares.
Whenever I do like podcasts, I write these insanely long, like
Give
2
notes.
paragraph openings, and I have to keep doing them over and over to get them right.
Yes, yes.
I totally get it.
Well, some people don't believe in writing things down, So
How about the background music of your dreams and nightmares? Something like that.
Why can't we say soundtrack?
You can,
because
but
that's the name of the
topic.
that's the name of the topic. You spoil it.
Should be soundtracks, man.
Don't you?
The soundtrack of your dream and nightmares?
Okay, I'm game for whatever.
But then,
soundtracks
tonight's
in
topic
general.
is.
Right.
The audio file.
Did I miss
of your
something?
dreams.
Did I miss something?
Why? So we can't say that again?
No,
We can.
Yes, you can. Go
We
ahead.
can.
It's fine.
Does it matter?
Well,
You want me to say
man.
something different?
I think it
Make
does.
just command decision.
Okay, here we go.
It's like saying. It's like
I got
saying.
it. I got it.
You don't need me to do an example.
This is good.
This is great. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is good.
Exactly what I always hoped.
Enthusiasm.
What I love about this too is that it's one of those ones where I'm learning a lot. Like there's a lot of
But you're
movies.
like, I mean, I thought you were going to be like, poo-pooing. You're fine. You're doing great as far as like. I mean,
I
you know
love-
what I mean? No, I know.
I love soundtracks. I just I don't necessarily do what you guys do and
Yeah, yeah.
sit and listen to them.
Right.
But I love the music.
Well, that's the one.
And again, Logan's Run. I listen to that thing over and over again.
You too.
Even if a listener doesn't have a single soundtrack album, they know the music because they saw the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's like it's something that everyone's been exposed to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is
Like a
great.
virus.
Ah,
You have to stand 6 feet away from that soundtrack.
wow.
Wow.
Dude, I love it that you have method foaming soap, because when I actually tried to get liquid soap yesterday, everything was cleaned up.
You can't get toilet paper.
The only thing that was left was that method sparkling water. or whatever.
We got your writer.
Green M&Ms.
No cost was spared. Sorry, guys. I'm just getting a little tired here. Hold on. Hold on.
Sorry, I said spandex.
Yeah, you got me all. I'm all off my game now. I've got the vapors.
Do you know I have a spandex like jumpsuit? I was thinking of wearing it one day.
I think you need to. Okay.
You should,
Okay.
yeah.
Bye.
So, Matt, we have new patrons now?
Sorry. Should that be before? Should that be before
I just
the?
think maybe if one of us actually leads into it.
Well,
and then
that was good.
But
Evidently, it was pretty funny.
Natural.
Well, because I was unexpected.
You can just go. And speaking of patrons, we have a bunch of.
Yeah,
new
that's what I was
ones.
gonna do.
Okay.
I was going to mention
that.
sticking my nude foot in a bowl of hot, warm chili or something. That's something that I know that you liked.
I do. That's
But it was
that's
with
probably how to
Princess
get
Le- but it was
coronavirus.
It was with Princess Leia. So.
Yeah. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
So that's the way you're going to do it? What about your trademark?
But I thought you don't want me to do the same thing every show. You want me to be predictable?
I thought that's what you normally do, though.
Slight variation, but you still want to give that energy to it.
That wasn't energetic.
Yeah, it's too
No.
fast. It's too like matter. It's too like afterthought.
It's a throwaway.
Yeah, yeah.
Keep America strong.
It's very
Yeah.
pedestrian.
Keep America strong.
Yeah, it was a little too jazz.
All right.
Okay. Listen to soundtracks of every variety.
Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, wait. We got to let's all come in at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'll do that and we'll start.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you a cue. Like I'll do that. Okay. All right.
You know what, guys? I got to admit, I'm not that familiar with this cue. So why don't you guys do it and I'll sit it out?
You don't know.
I don't want to throw you off. I know it a little bit, but I don't know it like you guys know it, so I don't want to throw you off. You guys go ahead. I'll sit it
But
up.
why don't you do it and just do it low and just kind of, because we need to hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just kind of try
I'll
it.
wing it.
I think it'll be fine.
And for God's sake, watch fucking Star Trek.
Yeah.
Really, the original.
There's so much great Star Trek. Anyway, okay. Right? God, I want to kiss you. Okay, I'm probably going to stop after that.
That's very funny.
I'm not coming back, Jim.
Funny.
I didn't want to.
You know, the first time my wife saw that scene, she started busting up. Because she had no idea that Spock would do that, and she just thought it was the greatest.
Well, one nice thing
You
about
should be in a sideshow right next to the dog-faced boy.